All right, we're live. So yeah, we are here to rank the albums of Judas Priest. Kind of like with Black Sabbath, my picks are going to be a little weird, and I'm sure I'm going to get some shit. But like I didn't grow up in the '70s. I know you didn't either. But like, I feel like when you kind of miss an era, I feel like it kind of skews the way that you look at certain albums. Like if we had a dude here that was like, say, like Jeff's age or something,
Right.
it would his list would probably be way different than ours since we weren't there as these were coming out and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
I finally got into Judas Priest in probably, I want to say like 2017 or something. So
oh wow,
2016, 2017. So like
yeah,
pretty much all the albums were out already by that point.
yeah. I got
Uh,
into them like I think when I was like 18, so probably like 2000,
nice.
and yeah, so yeah, I didn't know they even had a new album coming, so that's kind of
Right. Yeah.
cool. Yeah. So what do you think about that new single Panic Attack?
Um, are you sure we're live? It still says scheduled up in the.
Yeah, it's live.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe mine's just glitching out.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay. Yeah. Panic Attack is pretty cool, I would say.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm loving it.
I don't know. I don't want to spoil my ranking too much, but I like Firepower quite a bit, and I would say Panic Attack is for me like on par with the best stuff from Firepower for sure. So
Yeah. I wasn't really that like enthusiastic at first, and I was like, well, I better check it out just because why not? And I like loved it from the very beginning. Like, oh shit. I'm getting kind of like I'm getting vibes like just a little bit of Painkiller, but I'm also getting like Screaming for Vengeance. Like it's I think it sounds modern, but it's also like it has some of the more old school Priest sounds to me that than stuff that I've heard from them over the last like 20 years. Like I'm just getting like this old Priest vibe, and like uh there's some insane guitar work in there. Scott Travis's double bass is great, and
yeah,
Rob's like hitting some super high notes that sound exactly
yeah,
like 1978 or something. I mean, maybe there's some studio touch ups there. I don't know, but either way, it sounds awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
agree.
excited for this. I think it's a great song.
Yeah, absolutely.
The I never really intended on doing this. Doing like a Judas Priest ranking thing. Pretty much what made me want to do this is like I was going through my CD collection, and I was right at the J's, to do a video, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll just do all the Judas Priest albums. Usually I only do 10 CDs, but I was like, I'll just do all the Judas Priest albums. But then I was like, who would want to watch that? Like everyone already knows what albums they have. What there would be, it would be so pointless just to show them. Here's this, here's that. And I was like, that would be a boring video. I was like, I might as well just rank them, you
Yeah,
know? And I think the album ranking things are more fun with another person. Like I've done a few by myself, and it's just not really the same.
yeah. I was, to be honest, I was kind of surprised that nobody else like you had that thing on your channel in the community part asking if anybody wanted to rank them, and it didn't seem like anybody else really like
I
bit.
think you're the only person that, yeah, that said they were interested. So I was like, anybody, I don't care.
Yeah,
Everyone
and
has an opinion.
like I said, I mean, uh, I'm not an expert by any means. I mean, I've only been into the band for what 6 or 7 years. I mean, I've heard some of their songs. Like,
Yeah.
um, I think the first time I ever heard Priest was on like I want to say Guitar Hero or Rock Band or something. I'm pretty sure Breaking the Law was was on one of those. Breaking the Law
Yeah.
was definitely the first song I heard, and then
That's probably that way for a lot of people.
yeah, um, and then I guess I don't know. Back in the day, in like high school, I when I was getting into metal, I would just like download songs off of YouTube or whatever illegally, of course, like a turd. But
It happens.
um,
We've all done it, whether we admit it or not.
yeah. So I had like I think I had Victim of Changes and Breaking the Law. I think I actually bought Breaking the Law on iTunes or something. I had Painkiller and oh my god, I'm drawing a total blank. Nightcrawler.
Oh yeah,
And then
awesome.
I think I had Beyond the Realms of Death. So I had like 5 songs on my iPod, and I really liked all those songs for, I don't know, probably close to a decade. And
Yeah,
then, but never like checked out a full album for the longest time for whatever
yeah,
reason. So
yeah. I think the first album I had was British Steel, and I listened to that quite a bit when I was like 18, 19, and then I got Painkiller, and I was like, oh man, game over. That
yeah,
was just like instantly. It's since the first time I heard Painkiller, it's been like one of my favorite metal albums. It's just
yeah,
untouchable for
it's
me.
awesome. That was the
Yeah,
first one.
I wish they had done more like it, but that's okay. They don't need to.
Yeah. Who
But
knows?
yeah, I got
Maybe the new one
so there's
will.
18 albums, I think. Is that right?
Yep, sounds right.
Okay,
I don't have that many of them. I gotta
that's
get
okay.
some more Priest in my collection, but
Yeah, yeah, showing them really. I mean, it's not really important. Um, I must have misplaced. I couldn't find my copy of British Steel. I don't know where it could have possibly went, but I don't know. My stuff's always a mess. So that's the one album that I couldn't find. But like I said, it doesn't matter. Uh, I brought them out anyways, just for the heck of it.
yeah.
I need to get more of their live albums. I have
Mhm.
Unleashed in the East, which is this is like a total fan favorite. Like a lot of people, older people especially, they like will prefer this to most of the studio albums.
Yeah.
I guess I could get that. It's probably one of the best like live metal albums ever. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I from what I've heard, it's kind of arguable how much of it is actually live, but
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
it is great.
Yeah. I think it's one of those live albums where it's like maybe 50% actually live, but whatever, right?
Yeah, I think like Rob Halford had a cold or something when they recorded it, apparently, and they had to redo some vocals and whatever. But
Oh, okay.
that's what
Yeah,
I've
that
heard.
makes sense. I mean, you want it to sound as good as you can. And they also have this I I always go back to this whenever I want to like watch Judas Priest live stuff. I have this Electric Guy DVD.
Nice.
It's really good. Yeah, it is let's see. Oddly enough, it's from 1986. So maybe not the best era of them, but they were still a great live band in 1986.
Yeah,
It's
of
got
course.
a live in Dallas, Texas, and then it's got these BBC TV performances, which are cool too.
Nice. Yeah, I gotta get a DVD of them. I
Yeah, you
have
can
a
probably
lot of
track that one down. That one's a good one to get.
yeah, I have a lot of like live DVDs because I can't get to concerts very often.
No,
Like
yeah. I mean,
usually it's
I
like
don't
6 hours minimum. But yeah. But I don't have any Priest ones, and I don't own any of the live albums either. I did listen to. I mean, I had heard Unleashed in the East before, and I listened to Priest live like a couple weeks ago. That one's great too. That's from
Is that
my
the
thing.
one where it's like a kind of brownish cover?
Yeah, with a bunch of hands kind of
Yeah.
on
I
it.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get that too. Yeah, I need to get some more of their live stuff because I do like a good live album.
Mhm.
I used to
That
have
one's a
go ahead.
sorry. Go
No, you're fine. Go ahead. There's a delay, so we probably cut each other off.
ahead. Yeah, that one's from like '87, I want to say.
Oh,
So
okay.
right around the same time as that DVD, I guess. And that one's a double album as well.
Oh yeah.
Unleashed in the East is a single album. It's only like 40 something minutes, I think. But
Yeah. You know what, I used to have the metal, I think it's called Metal Meltdown, I think, is when they had Ripper in the band. That's actually
okay.
honestly a pretty good live album. Like it's I don't know how many people would want to admit it, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one. I didn't get time to listen to any of the like later live albums after Priest
Yeah.
Live, but I was looking up some reviews of that one and stuff, and yeah, a lot of people were saying that's like by far their favorite thing that Ripper did with Priest.
Yeah,
Apparently
it's
he
it's
like
good.
kills it on. I mean, it makes sense because he was in a Priest cover band right
Yeah.
before he joined
Yeah.
Priest. But
Yeah. He's I like listening to that. I don't really like watching live stuff with him because he has such a weird, awkward like stage presence. Like he just looks terrible on stage, but whatever.
yeah, I was just I've never like really I've seen a few photos of him and stuff, but I had never really seen footage of him singing or anything until last night actually. I realized I had barely seen any of Judas Priest's music videos. So I went through like last night and watched them all chronologically
Oh
in a
shit.
row.
Dang. How
Um,
many did they have?
I want to say like 21 or something like that
Dude,
total.
I love the Painkiller video. That one's
Yeah, that's
so
great.
good.
I had seen that one,
Yeah.
but I think that was the only one.
I think I've
And yeah,
only seen that and Breaking the Law. I don't think I've seen any others.
I might have seen that one as well. I think those were the two that I had seen previously, but
Breaking the Law is a pretty like famous music video. Like they used to play
yeah,
it on Beavis and Butthead all the time and stuff. Like
yeah,
it's it's a fun video. I'm not a
it
huge
is.
fan of the song, but
Yeah, I mean, I still like that song, even though
I
I've
don't
heard
mind
it.
it. It's just one of those songs where it's like it's been so overplayed. Like
Yeah, it's
it's in like the
ridiculous.
top 10 overplayed metal songs. It's up there with like Iron Man and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like, I mean, basically, I don't know. I could be wrong here, but I feel like the only songs I've heard on the radio or anything are probably "Breaking the Law" and "Living After Midnight." There might
Those are
be,
the ones that those get played the most. Definitely.
maybe you've got another thing coming, like
Yep.
once in a while, but "Breaking the
I
Law"
do.
is by far probably the most played one.
Yes.
But anyway, where I was
But it's
going with
fine.
this is
It's
there's a
fine.
video for, I think it's Lost and Found, the kind of ballad off of Demolition. That's the
Oh,
only
yeah.
song that they made a music video for off of that album, which is kind of a weird choice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and yeah, they're just like they're all like have acoustic guitars and stuff. They're like on a stage, but it doesn't look like they're actually playing a show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Watching Ripper Owens, he's just kind of, I don't know, he just looks like this kind of macho like 90s dude.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, check out what after this or whatever. Go watch some of the live stuff from when he was in the band. It's like it sounds good. I mean, it's not that he was a bad live singer. He can pull it all off live, but he just looks so awkward. And he does a lot of like boxing. You like pretend to be
Really
punching and stuff. It's like they
interesting.
had to have been like, dude, don't do that, please. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's a
Cool stuff.
weird. He's not a good. I wouldn't say he's a good live performer. I mean, he can sing, but yeah, like he just
Mhm.
looks weird on stage.
Yeah. I was just looking up his like all the stuff he's been on
Oh, he's
yesterday as
done so
well.
much.
Yeah, but like it's like he's never been in a band for more than an album or two. It's just
Nope.
like
Yeah.
it's like the list of credits is just like one album from like
Yeah.
50 different bands kind of thing
He's
almost.
pretty much just like the last like 10 or 20 years. He's pretty much just like a hired gun. He
Mhm.
just people ask him to be on an album and he just does it. He
Yeah.
he says he likes doing that because he says he makes more money that way than if he were to just start a band and try to make it off that band. He's like, I do way better just, just doing stuff for people. He's basically like a studio guy at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had some bands that he tried to kind of carry on, but yeah, like you said, I feel like he doesn't follow through very well, or maybe he just gets like, maybe he just likes moving on to the next thing. But yeah, I don't think he's ever been in a band for more than like 2 albums.
Yeah. The
But
metal mercenary, I guess.
yeah, he pretty much is. But he's a great singer, and I mean, I like his voice and stuff. I like a lot of albums. Like, did you ever hear the album he did with Iced Earth, or
No,
the
I
first
haven't.
one, anyways? It's really good.
Cool. It's kind of funny this just how slow my computer is. The thing in the middle of the screen to say the stream is live just finally popped up.
Oh my
13
god.
minutes late. Yeah.
Yeah, we've
But
been live for 14 minutes already.
yeah.
Andre Iced Earth. Yeah, Ripper was in Iced Earth for 2 albums, and they're both really good, especially the first one. The second one he did, and it's not his fault. He didn't write any of those, but like the second one, it's okay. But I think the Glorious Burden. I know it's like not okay to talk about Iced Earth anymore, but I don't give a shit about that. The Glorious Burden was a fantastic album, probably some of his best singing, and also Erik, you might want to check out. He was in a band before he joined Judas Priest. It was called again. He was in the band for one album, but it's good. I'm gonna pull it up real
Winter's
quick so I always
Bane.
forget. It's
Winter's
called
Bane.
Yeah. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard it. I just found out about that yesterday. I was looking at it.
It's awesome. It's hard to track. I've always wanted a physical copy. It's been out of print for a long time, and it's really hard to get. But it's a great album.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, 18 albums. Do you want to kick off? You want to start it off?
All right. Sure. Number 18 is not going to be any surprise, really, to be
Probably
completely
not.
honest. It's Demolition.
Yeah.
Probably most people's number 18.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. It's not, I don't want to say it's a terrible album.
It's not. Yeah. It's. I find it's not a bad listen, but there's just Jesus Christ. It's just like they couldn't decide what they wanted to do. You know.
Yeah. Or they kind of did, and it's just not my thing. It's totally like 90s kind of macho man metal
Yeah.
groove metal type stuff. A lot of
Yeah.
like Pantera, sort of, but I don't know. It's kind of halfway between that and like
A little grunge in there, I think too.
yeah, a little bit of grunge too. And I don't know, just the guitar tone is weird as well. I don't. It's really
It's
like
got a bad production. I think the production
yeah,
is it kind of sucks on it. Yeah.
yeah. I took a few notes. It said plenty of heaviness, but severely lacking in emotion. It just kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, just none of the songs really grab me.
Yeah. Me
Again,
either.
it's 70 minutes long, which is just too much for this
It
type of
is too
stuff.
long. Yeah.
Um, my favorite parts are kind of when they're like not being so aggressive, actually. Some of the mellower parts kind of give them a little bit more room to focus on actually making memorable melodies, because a lot of
Yeah.
the heavy riffs are just like chugging over
Yeah.
like two notes kind of thing, and
Yeah.
just not memorable at all to
I
me.
don't think I listened to this like 2 days ago. I don't think I can really remember one riff from it.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't I couldn't tell you one riff either.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's barely any guitar solos either.
Yeah.
Like Jugulator still had quite a few guitar solos. They really like,
Oh yeah,
I
tons.
don't
Yeah.
know. It's like one or two on here that I can remember anyway. I did write down a few highlights. Bloodsuckers, In Between, and Cyberface are kind of a little bit better than the rest, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
It's
agree. Yeah. The Bloodsuckers is probably my favorite song from it. And even then, it's not one that I would go back to often.
yeah. I don't want to say this is a terrible album. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're someone whose favorite kind of stuff is 90s groove metal,
Yeah.
then
It's
it's
probably
my
good in that matter.
favorite
Yeah.
Priest album. So,
Yeah.
but it's not mine at all.
No.
And honestly, this is the only album on the whole list that I don't know if I will honestly ever go back to.
Yeah. I
I
might not
listened
either.
to it. I had never heard it before a couple weeks ago, and now that I've listened to it a few times to do this stream, I don't know. I don't really have any desire to go back.
No. No. It's my number 18 as well. I kind of liked it when it came out, but it didn't last very long. It hasn't aged very well. Um, it's it which is it's kind of sad because, well, spoiler alert, I really like Jugulator, and it doesn't even really sound that much like that. Like at least Jugulator had, I don't know, just a lot going on. And yeah, like you said, it's not really like a terrible album, but I think it's a bad for Judas Priest, it's a bad Judas Priest album. And
Yeah,
some of the
it
problem I've
doesn't
always
sound
had with Judas Priest is like they did try to like conform way too often. Like, they changed styles and tried to adapt and stuff more than they should have. Like I've always respected Iron Maiden more for like they never really changed very much,
right.
and Judas Priest changed. I mean, they made like numerous like stylistic changes, and honestly, most of them didn't work.
Yeah,
But I
I
don't know. I mean, I'm not a musician. I can't really, I get it where you want to like when you're a famous band, you have like record label pressure, and you have to make people happy, and it's at one point I think you can you can't always make the album that you want if you want to like stay signed and stay, stay popular. So I mean, I can't really judge them because who knows? Maybe I would do the same thing if I was in like a famous band.
Yeah,
But
it's hard to
yeah,
say.
I don't
Like,
think I'll ever go back to that album again either.
yeah, like you said. I mean, they were one of the biggest metal bands of the '80s. They were selling out arenas and stuff, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's easy for an underground band that doesn't have any kind of commercial, never has any
Yeah.
commercial aspirations, and
And
is
no
never
pressure or
going to
anything.
have a platinum selling album or play
Yeah.
arenas or whatever. Then
Yeah.
obviously it's easier for them to just be like, okay, yeah, not that many people care anyway, so we're just going to do our own
Yeah.
thing. But I can totally see if you're in a huge band, yeah, like you said, all the pressure from the record labels
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
Although this era that was very as much as they tried, like it was really unsuccessful. Like uh during the Ripper era, like they weren't playing arenas anymore, they were playing clubs and stuff. But they tried. They tried their best, I'm sure, but yeah, it was not a good era for them commercially.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'll probably never go back to it. I listened to it once again the other day, and I probably won't listen to it ever again.
yeah, same. All right, number 17. Uh, I kind of feel bad putting it this low, but number 17, I have Nostradamus. And I like this is a big step up from Jugulator, or sorry, not Jugulator, Demolition, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
actually like Nostradamus quite a bit, to be
Yeah,
honest.
me
But
too.
it's there's a lot of good songs on it, but there are just too many songs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an hour and 42 minutes of stuff here, and it's kind of a slog to get through. Like we were kind of talking about yesterday a little bit. I don't know. A lot of the material as well is kind of in a very similar vein. I really like what they were going for
Yeah, I
on
agree.
paper. It's
Yeah.
big and epic and bombastic,
Yeah.
and I don't know. It just there isn't quite enough diversity in the material to justify an hour and 42 minutes runtime.
Yeah.
Um,
It's too
and
long.
a lot of the songs as well, they are good. Like there isn't a single song on here really that I think is bad, but
Right.
um, a lot of them kind of sound like an album closer just because they're so huge and bombastic and epic. It's
Yeah.
like 80% of the songs sound like an album closer, and it just kind of keeps going and
Yeah.
doesn't. I don't want to say there isn't dynamics because a lot of the kind of interlude tracks do bring things down, and then so it kind of ebbs and
Yeah.
flows while it goes through it, but it's just not
Yeah.
quite enough to do that. And
Yeah.
I will say, like you mentioned the other day as well, the last time I listened to it, I did do it in two chunks because it's labeled Act One and Act Two. And
Yeah. It's
if
a
you,
different experience when you do it
it
that
is,
way.
I will say, yeah, it's definitely better to do it that way. And like, imagine you're at a play or whatever, right? You have the first half, and then you have a short kind of break in between, and then you go for the second half. That's kind of what it seems like to me was their intention with the Act One and Act Two. But
True. Yeah.
yeah, it does kind of help to kind of refresh yourself a little bit in between because otherwise
Yeah.
it's just a slog.
Yeah. I don't think there's any band, I mean, for most people, that could do it to, make an hour and 42 minutes of music that anyone would want to just sit through.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how good the album is, I don't think like 95% of people are not going to want to sit through that whole thing. So
Mhm. I mean,
even if it was really good.
even something like The Wall or The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, things like that, and
Yeah.
those are both shorter than this by a decent chunk.
Yeah.
Those are still like you got to be ready for it. You can't just put it on
No.
At any time, and that's kind of why this falls down to the bottom, near the bottom of the list to me, is just
Yeah.
because while it's enjoyable, it's not something I'm going to go back to very often.
No,
So,
I wouldn't imagine.
but I did have a few highlights here as well. Prophecy is good. I like the build up to that one in the beginning of the album.
Yeah, I like that
War
too.
is really heavy and epic.
Yeah.
War is the one they made a music video for as well. I don't know if
Oh
you've seen a
shit.
video for that.
No, I
It's
didn't
like
even know.
it's like totally like low budget CGI stuff. It's
Oh,
like
I can
crazy.
imagine.
It's kind of scary in a way, just because it's so weird. Um, Pestilence and Plague is kind of cool. You get to hear Rob singing in Latin, I think it is, which
Oh
is
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Death has really good dynamics between like the slow and fast sections. Alone has some cool acoustic guitars in the second half. Visions is really catchy, and Nostradamus, the title track, is probably my favorite on the album. That
Yeah,
one's
me too.
pretty. It's kind of one of the faster songs and some super intense vocals from
Yeah.
Rob. But yeah, number 17. I don't hate it by any means. It's a good album, but it just can't. It can't. I couldn't bump anything else down below
Yeah.
it. So
Nah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I had it for the longest time. I actually had it a lot lower, at least. I mean, I never made a list, but in my head, I always had it pretty low. But over the last like week or whatever, I think I bumped it up a couple notches, which I didn't really see coming. But we'll get to it. Andre, I would say for me, between Maiden or Sabbath, I'm definitely a bigger Black Sabbath fan. I love Maiden though, but Black Sabbath are just like my favorite band.
yeah, I mean, I honestly, oh, that's hard.
They're
Judas
both
Priest
like
made.
those are probably the two most important metal bands ever, though. I
I think
mean,
he said Judas Priest, Maiden, or Sabbath as well.
oh,
Uh,
okay, yeah, you're right.
I don't know. That's a tough call. I probably would still pick Sabbath as number
Yeah,
one as well,
yeah,
just because they were like one of the first metal bands I ever got into. But
yeah,
uh,
me
I
too.
would say Sabbath and Priest, especially after the last couple weeks of listening to them so much. I
Yeah,
mean, they're one of my favorite bands now. I would say they
yeah,
kind of were already, but I don't
yeah,
know. A lot of these rankings and deep dives and stuff that I've been doing, it's just like I I don't know. I'm not even tired of listening to Judas Priest now
I'm
that
not
I've
either. Yeah,
binged them.
it's
So
it's funny when you like you get a different perspective when you're like listening to albums for like a purpose too. You know,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
not
you
just
kind
doing
of
them just
like,
to pass the album. You know.
and I listen to music a lot at work too, and sometimes it's easy to just kind of zone out, and three songs go by, and you're like, oh, I don't know what those sounded like,
I know.
but
I
yeah,
hate that.
it kind of it's yeah, if you sit down and actually listen and try to kind of analyze it, it does help sometimes. But
Yeah.
I will say I love Iron Maiden, but even though I'm wearing the shirt, they're probably third on that list for me.
Yeah, I'm probably a bigger Maiden fan than Priest, but it's pretty close. The problem I've had with Judas Priest pretty much since I ever first heard them is that like, and this is just a me thing. This is not anything wrong with the band, but I like the heavy metal Judas Priest. Whenever they have the songs where they're like, yeah, we're just inspired by good old rock and roll. Like I'm not a fan of those songs. Like I don't want to hear Judas Priest play like 70s rock, you know. Like I like when they're like full out metal. But
Yeah.
that's like I said, that's a me thing. It's not a criticism against the band, really.
Yeah, a lot of their like, especially the early '80s albums and stuff, and some of the later '80s ones as well. They do kind of have a lot of those songs where they're just kind of. My least favorite stuff on those is probably the kind of '80s hard rock kind of typical
Oh yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like it sounds kind of like AC/DC or something. If I want to hear that, I'm just
Exactly.
gonna listen to AC/DC instead. And
Yeah.
I'm not a huge AC/DC fan either, but they're
Yeah.
good. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I don't want to use the word filler, but there aren't very many Priest albums where I like every single song. And
Yeah,
That's just how it is for me.
I agree.
So my number 17 is I just really never liked this album as much as I've tried. Is Turbo.
Oh
I
damn.
know it's cliche to put this really low, but like some people, I feel like some people try to defend it, and I just don't get that. Like I don't think there's anything on there that's great. It's not bad either, but I feel like it's just really really bland. It's got some great guitar work, and I mean I think everyone likes the song Turbo Lover. It's a pretty cool song actually, but I don't think I really like any of the other songs on here as much or nearly as much. And it has some terrible songs like Private Property. I think is just terrible. Parental Guidance, Rock You Around the World. I think those are pretty terrible songs. But
Yeah.
it's like they were trying to, they're trying to be like an '80s party band, because that was probably the popular thing at the time. And I don't know. I get annoyed when people. I mean, I shouldn't, but I get kind of annoyed when people try to defend it. I get it if you're like, oh, I like the album, but some people are try to make it out like that it's this underappreciated classic, and I'm just like, no, I completely disagree with you. But I mean, I would never attack someone for liking something. That would just be stupid. But I just find it kind of comical when some people try to like, oh, it's that it's really underrated. And like I think it's you that thinks that. I don't think it's underrated at all. But
well, I surprisingly have it quite a bit higher, but I
yeah,
wouldn't say it's some kind of masterpiece or anything like that.
yeah,
It's not a classic, but I don't know. I'll get to that later.
yeah. But I can listen to it. But yeah, I probably wouldn't. From here out, it's probably not going to get very many more plays. Like I couldn't see myself listening to it more than one more time, like ever. But I can't say that for sure. Sometimes you change.
All right, number 16. This kind of surprised me, honestly, but I have Redeemer of Souls from, what was it, 2014, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. This is not a bad album at all. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of inconsistent to me.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
there's some really great songs, but a lot of them kind of just feel sort of uninspired and just a little bland to me.
Yeah,
It's like kind of Priest just going through the motions and writing songs, but I don't know. Just none of the songs. Sorry, not none of the songs, but quite a few of the songs just kind of don't leave any memory in my mind after they're done.
yeah, I feel that
And
way too.
it's 62 minutes long as well, which is kind of too long because like I said before, a lot of the songs kind of sound similar to me. But that being said, the title track Redeemer of Souls is great. Halls of Valhalla is pretty awesome. Sword of Damocles is maybe my favorite song on the album.
Yeah,
It's kind of interesting. The other day I was listening to that one, and it's got this kind of clean section in the middle of this kind of melancholic, clean guitar part that totally it came on, and I was like, this sounds like Opeth, just
I could
like
see that.
something from like I don't know late '90s Opeth.
Yeah,
And
I
then
could see that.
when Rob starts singing, I don't know. There's something about his vocal tone and the clean guitar combined that totally reminds me of like Manila Road.
Yeah,
But anyway,
I like that part too. I see what you're saying.
yeah, I don't know. That's a great song.
Yeah,
Battle Cry is really good too, and Beginning of the End is I think the kind of more ballad type track at the end of the album. But I don't know. It's a good closer. But other than that, I don't know. A lot of these songs just kind of go by and don't really leave any impression on me. So I
I
don't know.
agree.
And the version they have on Spotify as well, which is where I was listening to it, has like 5 extra songs
Oh
that were
shit.
on an EP. So it's like an hour and 24 minutes or something like that with those on it too.
Damn.
But they were released separately on an EP, and it's kind of it's kind of obvious why they were left off the album because none of those are very good in my opinion.
Oh, I see. I didn't know about those songs. I'm gonna check them out.
Yeah, I forget which ones those were. Yeah, it was.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it looks like it was released on 10-inch vinyl. That's kind of crazy.
Okay, yeah, Five Souls EP from
Yeah,
2014.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not bad songs. Again, like
But
it's
like you
still
said, it's you can tell why they were left off.
yeah, they're just kind of like the other songs that I didn't talk about that just kind of I don't know. They're fine, but they're not memorable really. So
I could see that.
I wish I could put this album higher, but it's just I don't know. That's where it
Yeah,
landed.
no, I know what you mean. I feel that way about that album too. No baloney, Anzalone. What's up, man? Yeah, this is a good band to rank. It's a I like bands with like a varying discography, you know, like so Peter Edelston from it's funny, we got Russia here and we've got England. That's pretty cool. Couldn't get
Yeah.
into anything after Seventh Son, Blaze albums. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you there, man. The Blaze Bailey Maiden albums, I kinda like the X Factor, and I would defend it to an extent, but the Virtual 9 is pretty awful.
Yeah.
And I get if someone hates yeah, if somebody hates what did I just say? What's that? The X Factor. If I can't really, I guess I wouldn't defend it, but I kind of like some of the stuff off of it. All right, so my number 15. 15? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another album that
Or
I get
16.
kind of annoyed.
Or
What's that?
16. Number
16.
16.
Okay. 18. 17.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm. Oh shit! I was looking at Unleashed at the East over here in my stack. Yeah. Let me get rid of that. All right, number 16. Yeah, this is another album that I see a lot of people over the last couple years. Not to piss anyone off, but I see a lot of people defending it and calling it kind of like an overlooked classic. And I barely like this more than Turbo. In fact, I think it might even be like tied with Turbo. So Point of Entry. I have tried so many times to get into this album. I can't do it. I don't think I like one song on here. I find a lot of them like passable, but it might have my least favorite Judas Priest song. What's it? You Say Yes. Oh my god.
I say no.
Yeah. I just that album to me is just like it's like nails on a chalk. Or I mean that song. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I don't know. It's a unique album in the Judas Priest discography. It does have this kind of like mellow hard rock vibe, but like I said earlier, that's like not the vibe I want in Judas Priest. So for me, like I said, I see people over the last few years like and maybe people came around to it, but I haven't. I don't see it ever happening. And it's funny too because like if the time that it came out, I mean it came out in 81. So it came out in between, let's see, British Steel and Screaming for Vengeance. So it's kind of a weird album to be sandwiched in between those two. Not really sure what they were going for. But yeah, for me, it just doesn't really work.
I feel like maybe, I mean, they were really cranking out a lot of albums at that point. I mean,
true.
I think, what was it? Didn't they have 2 in 78 or Stained Class? I mean, look at this. Sad Wings of Destiny 76, Sin After Sin 77.
Yeah.
2 albums in 78, 1 in 80, and then that's 81, then Screaming in 82. I mean, they were cranking out the albums. They were doing, I'm sure, big tours by that point as well. So
I'm sure they were. Yeah.
I feel like maybe they were just burnt out a little bit when they were making
that very well could be. That could be like their burnout album.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Rick?
Hey, Rick. Yeah, I agree with basically everything you said. That's my number 15. There's a couple songs on it. Let's see. There's a couple songs that I like. Heading Out to the Highway is decent. Hot Rockin' is kind of it's kind of I don't know, it's a unique song for them, just with that weird like heavy kind of stop start chug kind of riff.
True.
Turning Circles, I like the verse, but I don't like the chorus at all, really. Desert Plains is probably my favorite song on the album. I mean, it definitely is. But
I could see
I
that.
was I was actually watching the Heavy Metallurgy Judas Priest ranking like last week as well.
Oh, they
Just
did one.
last
They
week.
did it last week.
No, they did it like a year or two ago, but I was watching it last week,
Oh yeah, I
just out
think
of
I
curiosity.
watched that one. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Okay.
Um, and somebody mentioned that like Desert Plains is a good song and it's the best song on the album, but is it really a great Judas Priest song, or does it just sound good compared to everything else that's on this album? And I
Yeah, I
think
think it is. I don't
that's
think that it would stand like if you were to pick like 20 of their greatest songs. I don't think it would be in there. You know.
but it's still a good song. I like it quite a bit.
True.
Solar Angels is decent but not great, and On the Run I really like the chorus, but the verse um, is just kind of boring. And yeah, a lot of these songs just kind of sound like AC/DC ripoffs or something. They're just kind of
Yeah,
bland,
it's a good
generic
point.
hard
Yeah.
rock, which is not what I go for
Yeah.
or go to for Judas Priest.
Yeah.
So
I would say I would listen to this again though. I would say like I haven't given up on it because I feel like maybe there's a chance I could like it someday. So it's
yeah,
not like Turbo where I'm kind of done with it. I actually might. And also this is probably one of their albums that I've spent the least amount of time with. So I
yeah.
think I would say I would listen to it again.
I think it's it's fine for putting on in the background, kind of if you're doing something. But
Yeah.
if you're just paying close attention to it, it kind of, I don't know, you can easily pick it apart because
Yeah.
it's got a lot of flaws.
Yeah. Cool. That was your 15.
Yeah.
All right, my 15 is from we were just talking about it to 2014. I think you said Redeemer of Souls. I actually like this album less now. When it came out, I actually thought it was pretty good. I think this is the first album with Richie Faulkner, right?
Yeah.
And he's great. He brings a lot to the band. But yeah, I liked it a little more when it came out, and like lately, like I listened to it the other day, and I was kind of bored by it. So for me, it hasn't really aged well. But it does have, like you said, it does have some really cool songs. Halls of Valhalla, the title track, or not title track, but the first track, Dragonaut, is okay.
Yeah.
Sword of Damocles is pretty cool, like you said. I pretty much liked the songs that you liked. Oh, Metalizer, track 9, I actually like that one a lot. And let's see, track 8, Cold Blooded. I think, if I remember correctly, I liked that one. I think Metalizer is my favorite song here. That's more of like a kind of a painkiller type song. Um, but yeah, it's I don't think it's aged well. It's not a terrible album either. Like it's pretty cool. Like I I would also return to this one, but it's going to be a while. It'll be a
Yeah.
while before I return to it. But I think I'd return to it, you know, at some point in the future. Like it's not an album where I'm like, I'm going to shelve this forever. But I don't think it would ever get too many listens from me. I think it's the weaker out of like their post like 2000 stuff. I think it's their weakest album, but I don't know. I find it hard to bash on it because it's not terrible, but this last listen from last week I wasn't too impressed. But Metalizer is a cool song. I think I'd listen to that song just by itself.
Yeah. I will say basically all these albums other than Demolition, like I kind of made a playlist the other day of just like my favorite Judas Priest songs, and there are songs on there from basically every album, be it
Yeah,
besides Demolition. So I mean,
yeah,
almost every album has some great songs here and
totally.
there, but yeah, just a lot of kind of duds on these lower ones. Some of them.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, number 14, uh, I have Jugulator, and yeah, I a lot of people seem to have this right down at the bottom with Demolition,
Oh, totally.
but
Yeah.
it's way better than Demolition for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still it's kind of feels like a hangover from Painkiller in a way. A lot of the
Yeah.
songs are really fast, really aggressive, um, and yeah, they don't get as much into that like just heavy chugging kind of groove thing. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's got some actual riffs
Yeah,
compared
exactly.
to Demolition.
I will say the riffs on it are nowhere near as great for the most part as on Painkiller.
No.
They kind of just seemed like they were focusing on trying to be as heavy as possible and kind
Yeah.
of threw away some of the memorability of the riffs and
Yeah.
melodies. Um, and it's kind of I don't know. A lot of these songs are less. I don't know. It's hard to pin down exactly what it is. Um, Maybe it's partly the production. There's just less kind of layers to it than Painkiller,
Yeah.
but and less dynamics maybe to it as well. But I don't know. It's missing something a little bit for me. Um, I'm also not a huge fan of Ripper Owens' voice. He's fine. He's a great singer, but I just kind of I feel like he's almost trying too hard in spots to try and sound tough or mean.
It's pretty. Yeah, his performance is pretty over the top on that
Yeah,
album. Like
it is.
it's very over the top.
I am definitely curious to hear some of the live stuff with him, hear him singing some of the older songs. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Some of his vocals actually remind me of like Lane Staley on some of the mellower parts.
Yeah.
Totally sounds like Alice in Chains kind of stuff in some of the
Yeah.
like cleaner parts. But
Yeah.
there are quite a few good songs on this album. I would say Jugulator is pretty good. The opener,
Yeah.
Bloodstained is a really good one. Burn in Hell is that's the one they made a music video for as well.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one. Abductors is pretty good. Bullet Train and Cathedral Spires is definitely my favorite song on the album. That's a great
Yeah.
song.
It is. Yeah, I think that's everyone's favorite song from that album, which is fair. It
Yeah, I
it's almost a shame that they don't like play it live or anything. I think they
yeah.
should.
They don't really play. I don't think Rob like after Rob came back. I don't think they've ever played any of the Ripper stuff live. Have they?
No, he refused actually. He said
Right.
he said he refused. I think that was part of like his agreement to coming back is he said he wouldn't sing any of the Ripper songs.
Right. It would be
I get
interesting
that to an
to
extent.
hear.
Yeah, I get that to an extent. I get it. I see why someone wouldn't want to sing songs that they didn't write, but at the same time, it's like I feel like it's kind of disrespectful to the guys that wrote the songs too. But they might not have cared at all. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was like if they butted heads over that. So
Yeah.
yeah, they don't play any of that stuff live anymore.
Yeah. I will say that the album is a little bit long as well. It's like just
Yeah,
about an hour. So there's
yeah.
probably a few songs that they could have kind of cut off, in my
I
opinion.
think
But
all their modern albums have been too long, really.
yeah, the I think the shortest one is Angel of Retribution. I think it's like 52 minutes or something,
Oh, okay.
which is the
That's
shortest
probably a
ones.
good length. That's probably right. No, most albums don't need to be longer than that. I mean,
No,
I don't know.
I
All
agree.
right. So wait. No, my number 14, yeah, Angel of Retribution that we are just talking about. I actually like this album. It's kind of uneven for me. It's got some really good songs like Judas Rising, I think is amazing. That's kind of a
Yeah,
painkiller type song. Demonizer's pretty cool. Hellrider's cool. I always love hearing people talk about Loch Ness because it's like I respect them so much for trying something different. I don't really. It's not a very good song. I don't think it really works too well, but I think it's cool that what is it, like 14 minutes or 11 minutes
13,
or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, it's
I
13.
think it's cool that they attempted it. You know, it may not have worked. Uh, it's a weird subject matter too. Like, who writes a song about the Loch Ness monster?
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know. It's a weird choice, but yeah, not an album that I'm gonna put on too much at this point. I listened to it a decent amount when it came out, but I yeah, I could put on Judas Rising. Like if I were to make like a playlist, which I don't make playlists, but if I were to make a playlist, I would definitely put Judas Rising on there. Maybe Demonizer. And then there's a few songs on here that I don't really remember. Um, this was let's see, this is pre Richie Faulkner, I think. This came out, yeah, 2005. Um, yeah, let's see. Yep, yeah, he didn't come in until later. It's a pretty cool album. I like how they brought. I'm assuming that's supposed to be the Jugulator. I mean, the Painkiller guy on the cover, although he does look a little different.
Yeah.
Pretty cool cover. Yeah, I don't know. Another album where I would say it's still going to get some listens from me, but not very often. Like I doubt I'm going to listen to this again within the next 5 years, but I think at some point I'll put it back on. And I can't remember what this has. I don't know if you have this CD, but it's like
No.
this is a thing that they did for not very long. Like I think maybe a year or two. Do you remember the dual discs where they'd put it's like a
Oh, weird.
disc?
I've seen lots of DVDs like that, but I don't have
Yeah,
I've never seen a CD that's double sided.
yeah. It's got I can't remember what it has. I think it's got it might have maybe it has a little documentary thing or it says album and reunited, so I'm not sure. And it's a DVD on the other side, which is kind of cool. They didn't make these for very long, these dual discs. I'm not really sure why, but it was like a trend for maybe like a year. I think this is the only one that I own. I'll have to put this DVD in there though and see. I've never watched it, but
So
yeah, I
so
don't
it's a
know.
CD on one side, a DVD on the other side, kind of thing.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
That is very weird.
If I remember correctly, I think there were a lot of complaints about these because I think, if I remember correctly, they didn't play very well in a lot of stereos, especially like I think car stereos. They would sometimes like jam because it's slightly thicker, I think, than a regular CD. So I think that was a common complaint is that they would screw up stuff, but I don't know. I never had that problem, but cool relic, I guess you could say. So yeah, I like that album. I don't love it, but I like it.
Yeah. Number 13, I have Ram It Down, 1988. This is just a kind of a weird album.
It is weird.
It kind of feels like exactly what it is, which is the
Yep.
transitional album between Turbo and Painkiller,
Yep.
which is kind of a big transition to make.
Huge. Yeah.
I mean, Turbo to Painkiller is night and day.
Yeah, that sounds like two different bands.
It does. Yeah. And kind of half of this album is proto Painkiller and half of it is like kind of the aftermath of Turbo. So
Yeah,
it's kind
totally.
of it's really disjointed. I would say the high points are probably higher than anything on Turbo, but it's also I don't know. There's some songs that I don't know. I don't know if I would say the low points are lower than Turbo, but probably on par.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of it just something about it just doesn't sit well with me. Just how disjointed and uneven it is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Like we have everything from like Hard as Iron or Ram It Down to a Chuck Berry cover, right?
Oh god, yeah. I skip that cover every time. I just
Yeah.
skip it. Yeah. Don't need that.
And what's weird too is that's the one song they made a music video for from the
Are
album.
you serious?
Good. Yeah.
What? That makes no sense.
No, it doesn't at all. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that song. You know, it's a good song, but it's from what the early '60s, I think.
Something
And
like that.
it. There's no reason we don't need that on a Judas Priest album.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
if they want to play it once in a while at a concert, sure,
Yeah.
but you don't need to put that on your album.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's probably like one of their influences and stuff, and that's cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. I've never heard anyone say anything good about that cover ever. Like, not even one time.
Yeah, I don't know. And like that's also that's kind of their first bad cover. Maybe their only bad cover because they didn't really do covers after that.
Yeah, that's
Have
true.
they?
Yeah, because their early covers are awesome.
Yeah, they killed it on all the covers before this one, and then that one is.
Yeah.
It's not even that it's done badly; it just doesn't fit at all.
And I don't really like that era of music. Like I'm not like a 50s and 60s music fan, so for me, it's like I wouldn't even want to listen to the original. But that's just me.
Yeah, the earliest stuff I kind of go to is like mid '60s, maybe like the Beatles, Rubber Soul kind of onwards. I don't know. Started stuff before that is just kind of not my thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you had to be there for that kind of stuff. You don't hear a lot of people that didn't grow up in those eras like listening to that kind of music.
Yeah.
But hey, you like what you like.
Yeah. But again, there are some awesome songs on this album. Ram It Down, the title track, is great. Heavy Metal is pretty good. I mean, they probably could have come up with a more interesting lyrical theme and title, but oh well.
Yeah, it's got some kind of dumb lyrics, but whatever.
Hard as Iron is super good, and Blood Red Skies as well.
Yeah.
The production on this album is also kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like even starting with the first song, Ram It Down, the kick drum is just so clicky. It's like there's no bass to it. It's really weird.
I've heard that it's a drum machine. But then like they credit it to what's his Dave Holland, but I've heard it's a drum machine, and it sounds like a drum machine because Dave Holland, he's never played like that before.
Yeah, or maybe it was like electronic drums or something, or
that could be.
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it at all, but
yeah. And it's not like he couldn't have changed his drumming style. That people change styles, but yeah, it doesn't sound like a real drums to me, at least at times.
But it does give it a kind of unique feel to it, but yeah, I don't know. It's not a bad album at all, and it's one I probably will listen to again. But it's so inconsistent that I can't put it any higher. So
I agree. Yeah. All right. So where am I at? 13. This is going to be one of my least proud moments of this ranking because I don't really feel comfortable with putting this album so low, but for some reason lately, I don't know, I don't like this album as much as seems like everyone loved this album, and I don't know, maybe it's too long, so I'm gonna get probably a lot of eye rolls, but Firepower. There's like absolutely nothing wrong with it, and I think it's just a me thing. When it came out, I got kind of annoyed with everyone comparing it to Painkiller. Like I don't think it sounds at all like Painkiller, and except for I don't like maybe the title track, but beyond that, I don't think there's much on here that sounds like Painkiller. It's got too many songs, 14 songs. It's too long. I don't know. Children of the Sun, hate that song. There's just a lot of songs on here that I just don't do a whole lot for me. Firepower is a cool song. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not proud of putting this so low. But as of now, that's kind of where it sits. I mean, it's cool. It's got a good production. I love the addition of Richie Faulkner. He's such a good guitar player.
Yeah.
He was a good fit for. Like I miss KK Downing, but like Richie, he's a really good counterpart to Glenn Tipton. They're both like super shreddy, lead players. And I'm glad that Glenn, even with his health issues, I'm glad he's still able to like at least play on the albums. And he still writes, he still does writing and stuff, and that's cool. 'Cause I love Glenn's playing style, and I love his guitar tones and everything. He just always had like those really cool guitar tones, and just his style I think he's one of the best guitarists in heavy metal history.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I think I might catch a little shit for this, but at least for right now. And I don't know why I like Angel of Retribution more. Maybe it's just because I liked Judas Rising so much as a song. I don't know. We'll see. I think maybe, and if I were to do this maybe in another year or two, I think this would probably be higher. But for now, that's just kind of where I have it. And it's probably a me thing again. I don't think it's anywhere near being a mediocre album because I know everyone loves that album. So I'm sure it's me that's wrong, and not everyone else.
Okay. To each their own.
Yeah.
Number 12, I have Turbo, actually, and this kind of surprised me, to be honest. And again, it's definitely inconsistent, but I don't know. It's kind of just a fun album to me. Again, it's kind of similar to Point of Entry. It's not one that I would put on and like really try to analyze or really listen closely to, but it's just fun to just put on in the background or put on while you're driving or whatever.
Yeah.
That said, it does have some pretty bad songs on it.
It does.
Where am I here? And it's a huge step down from the two albums that came before it, for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still really like it. Turbo Lover, I really like that song.
It's cool.
Locked In is pretty good. Out in the Cold is another one of my favorites from the album, and then Reckless is pretty decent as well. So that's kind of why it's right beside Ram It Down, is because there's 4 songs that I like quite a bit, but besides that, I mean, you got stuff like Parental Guidance.
I'm not
like,
a good.
It's so silly.
Yeah, it is. There's some great guitar solos on there, though. Like some of the guitar work is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? Private Property, Rock You All Around the World.
Yeah, I'll pass on those two.
Wild Nights, Hot and Crazy Days it just totally sounds like I don't know, Quiet Riot or something. It's just like
totally
like 80s glam metal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know why it landed here in my ranking, but it's just because when I look at the track list, I'm like, these songs are just goofy and I don't know.
It's a pretty goofy album. It's got like a party vibe, it sounds like it's a total like party album.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I'll play it, to be honest, but when I put it on, I don't know. I like it for some reason. Yeah. Even though a lot of the songs are just objectively pretty bad. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird album for me, and I'm surprised it came this high, but that's just where it is. Hard to put my finger on why exactly.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, I got a few of those where I'm like, man, I don't feel right about where I'm putting it, but I can't put it anywhere else.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I will say that could flip flop with Ram It Down as well.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, it's interesting. A lot of these, especially from here on, there's a lot of like albums there's album pairs. Like I have 2 albums that could easily like flip with each other, and then I have 2 more that are slightly higher that are like right neck and neck.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of have that too. Where 2 albums that I compare to each other, and then All right, my number 12 is an album that I like way more now than I ever used to. Like I kind of had the opinion that most people have, where like this is a terrible album, but I think I was really wrong to think that, because I don't think it's terrible at all. So Rock-a-Rolla, their first album. I think a lot of people honestly just kind of parrot things that other people say. Everyone says it's a terrible album, right? It has to be a terrible album because everyone says that it is. But I think if you listen to it and give it a proper shot. And I didn't really come around to this album until got like I think 2 or 3 years ago. I used to work with a guy that would play it a lot. And for some reason, this is the only Priest album he would ever play. And I
Weird.
remember thinking like, that's really weird. I've never heard anyone like put this album on, you know. But the more I would hear it at work, I'm like, oh, okay. It's actually like it's a weird sounding album. It doesn't really sound like anything they did afterwards, which I guess that's because people say it's because it was written for a different singer, like it was written for Al Atkins. It wasn't written for Rob Halford, so maybe that's kind of why. And it's not my favorite Halford album. Um, I don't really like Rob's like his like mid or like lower singing. I don't really like his like lower singing voice, which is kind of most of what he does on this album. But the songs, I think are pretty good. They're like heavy 70s songs, like One for the Road. I think Rock and Roll is a bad song, or I mean a good song. I don't think there's anything on here that's actually bad.
Yeah.
It's just kind of an awkward Judas Priest album. They were still finding their footing and stuff, and Rob had like just joined the band, so he's singing songs that, like I said, weren't written for him, and he didn't write any of it, but he still does his best. He gets way better after this, but I don't know. I think it's an okay album. I also have this. I think this is a bootleg. I've had this for a long time. It's just called Genocide, and it's got Rock-a-Rolla and Sad Wings for Destiny on it. This is, for the longest time, this is what I had for both of those albums. But yeah, I don't know. I never thought I would like Rock-a-Rolla as much as I do now, but I think it's kind of like a lot of people basically say not only is it a bad Judas Priest album, but it's just like a terrible album in general. I think there's a lot going wrong there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad album at all. And you haven't listed it yet, so clearly you like it too.
Yeah. I'll get to that later.
Nice. I respect that.
Number 11, Angel of Retribution, Rob Halford's comeback.
Yeah.
And it's a really solid album.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff on here is kind of Painkiller-ish, pretty fast-paced. Especially like Judas Rising, the opening song. That's
I love it.
The first time I listened to this album, I will say that's probably my favorite song on the album. And I kind of, with an opener like that, I was like, oh man, this album is going to be awesome. And it kind of does trail off a little bit after that. That's the best song on the album, but overall it is really solid still.
Yeah. What do you think about Loch Ness?
It's I'm kind of right with you on that. I respect them for trying to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work that well. It's just kind of, I don't know. I would say I like it, but it's about twice as long as it needs to be, really.
Yeah.
Because it gets kind of repetitive over 13 minutes. And it's definitely a unique song in their catalog too. It doesn't
totally
sound like anything else. But it's just too long for me.
Yeah.
I will say some of the more mid-paced songs on the album are kind of, I don't know, they don't really go anywhere. They kind of ride one riff for most of the song.
Yeah.
So some of them are good. Some of the ones with a better guitar riff. I play guitar and stuff too, so I don't know. I've always been kind of a riff guy. You can have a song with only two riffs, and if both of those riffs are great, then I probably really like the song. You could have a song. I'm really into prog as well, but you could have a song where there's like 20 riffs and they may not be good riffs. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It just depends on the riffs for a lot of these. Like there are some good mid-paced ones, like Deal with the Devil is kind of not slow, but it's not super fast either, but that one's pretty good. Demonizer is pretty awesome. Hellrider as well sounds straight off of Painkiller almost.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that one. That's one of the songs I like.
That's probably that's kind of right there with Judas Rising for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. A lot of the other songs just kind of don't do a whole lot for me. So that's why it's
Yeah.
number 12.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. All right. My next one, here's another one that I'm not super proud of, but I just can't really get into this album. What are we on, number 11 or something?
Yeah, I love it.
1978. Depending on where you live, I guess is, it has two different titles, but either Hellbent for Leather or Killing Machine. I just can't. I always try to get into this album, and I just never really have been able to. Um, I think my favorite song is actually the cover, not Stevie Nicks. Who is
Fleetwood
it?
Mac.
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, which I've never really listened to much Fleetwood Mac. But yeah, the Green Manalishi I think is a really cool. I didn't even for the longest time I didn't know it was a cover because I've never really listened to Fleetwood Mac very much. Um, I don't know what else do I like on here. I guess Running Wild. I kind of like the title track. Delivering the Goods is pretty cool. I don't
Which
know.
title track?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just too much of I think a rockin' album for me. It's just not as heavy as. I mean, it's not that it's not heavy, but it's just got more of a hard rock feel, and that's always the Judas Priest that doesn't work for me. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, like you said, they had two albums out in '78, but I think this pales in comparison to Stay in Class. Let's see.
Which title track were you talking about? Killing Machine or
Um,
Hellbent for Leather?
Oh, yeah, good point. Hellbent for Leather is the
Yeah,
song I
great song.
forgot they had a song called Killing Machine. I still guess I'm kind of confused on. I'm right, aren't I? Is it Killing Machine and Hellbent for Leather? They're the same album.
Yeah, it was called
Okay.
Killing Machine as to begin with, but then there was that weird thing where I think it was that kind of scandal thing where a couple guys like committed suicide or something
Yeah.
listening to a Judas Priest album or something, and
Yeah, Stained Class. Yeah.
yeah, and the press was all up in a fuss about that, so they didn't want to.
Oh.
They decided it wasn't great to call it Killing Machine in the States after that
Okay.
happened. So
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's the
weird on
story.
Metal Archives they have it listed as two different albums. I think
Oh,
that's kind of stupid.
okay. I guess um, Hellbent for Leather, the U.S. version had the Green Manalishi on it, and I don't think the U.K. version did to
Oh,
begin
you're
with.
right. Yeah, I'm seeing that right now. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it
But
wasn't
I
on
mean,
the yeah.
I don't know if one extra song is enough to call it a different album. Really,
No.
it's kind of
And it's a
weird.
cover too, so
Yeah,
but yeah, this is one of those albums that I want to like. I want to love this album because it's a pretty well loved. I've never seen anyone list this as their favorite, but I feel like most of like the older fans, this is pretty much in their top five, and so I want it to be as well for me. But I never really can get into it.
yeah. I kind of feel similar, but
Yeah,
not quite to the same extent.
yeah.
All right, number 10, I have Firepower. Um, Full disclosure, I never heard this album until a couple weeks ago.
Oh shit, I'm
But
surprised.
yeah, I don't know. It was one of those ones that it was on my list of stuff to check out, and I was just always distracted by other stuff. I mean, I never listened to anything after Painkiller for a long time because I don't know. I didn't seeing the reviews and stuff for the Ripper Owen stuff, and then I don't know. I kind of like listening to bands chronologically as well, so I didn't want to listen to just the stuff after Halford came back without listening to the Ripper Owen stuff. But I don't know. That's
Yeah, you
probably
got
just
to at least check it out, right?
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I really like this album. It's I would say it's their best one since Painkiller for me. Um, for sure. It is a little long, like you said. It's like 58 minutes or something. I do think they could have trimmed a few songs off of it,
Yeah,
but
like maybe two songs.
yeah, two or three. But there's a lot of great songs on here. I mean, the title track, Firepower, Lightning Strikes, Evil Never Dies is pretty good. That one, I don't know. I don't quite love that song. It's got a weird pre-chorus that sounds like really happy almost before it goes into the heavy chorus, which kind of throws me off. But overall, it's pretty good. Necromancer is really good. Rising from Ruins, Spectre has there's a lot of awesome riffs on this album. Just it's way more consistent to me than Redeemer of Souls. And I think the best songs on this one are definitely better than even the best songs on that one as well. Traitor's Gate is great as well, and No Surrender is just that kind of 2.5 minute super catchy one as well. So I don't know, just consistently good as well. I like all the songs on it. I don't love them all, but there aren't any songs that I'm like that I hate or anything like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. I would have cut Children of the Sun off personally, but I don't think it's a bad song either.
Yeah, that's probably my least favorite.
Yeah. All right. Number 10. So this is an album I only really recently started to like. I liked it when it came out, but I never liked it a ton. But I also never bashed on it. So I got Nostradamus.
Wow.
I thought this was going to be at the bottom for me, or at least the bottom like 3 or 4. But I don't know, like listening to it over the last couple weeks, especially after I started to listen to it like 2 albums. Like I would just listen to the first disc, and then I would listen to the second one like maybe a couple weeks after that, and listening them back to back, I think it would just be a horrible experience. If you had to listen to it, if like that there was a rule where you had to listen to it straight through, then this would be my bottom like 3. But and I probably like the first disc a little bit more than the second, but they both have some really good songs. And I respect them for trying something different. It's kind of like Rob Halford's like really he's really like charismatic here. I mean, it's a very dark album, and it's like super somber, like it's sad, and like it's not an uplifting or like upbeat album. It's very like melancholy, feel. But he's being like very, I guess the word would be like expressionful. Is that a word? I don't know. Expressive. Yeah. It's like he's playing a character basically. It's almost like listening, like watching a play or something. So he's very, I don't know. He sounds good. But like you said, there aren't a lot of like standout tracks, Nostradamus is a really cool song, like you said. Prophecy's like a intro. Revelations is another really cool song. Pestilence and Plague, Death. Persecution's a really good song too, like really fast and heavy. There's some cool like almost like Black Sabbath sounding like doom stuff on here. But although I can't, I remember 2 songs that I thought that of, but now I can't remember which ones. Do you remember? Like the ones, there's like 2 like really slow and like doomy heavy songs.
I honestly haven't listened to that album enough to be able to kind of remember which song is which.
I should have written it down. Yeah. It might have been, maybe it was War. I think War might be one of them.
War is one of the heavier, slower ones for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I almost get like power metal vibes, like Blind Guardian, maybe something like that, but not as fast and not as like uplifting, but it's kind of power metal-y to me. And there's some good, everyone shines here, like there's some great Scott Travis drumming. There's some really good guitar work. Rob sounds great. Maybe the area where it suffers a little bit is like there's some good riffs, but maybe not a lot of memorable riffs. And like you said, there is some filler, some of the like interludes and stuff. I don't think it should have been two CDs, but like I respect them for doing that. Clearly they could have went the easy route and just did another 60-minute album. But maybe it'd be better if this was condensed into like 60 or 70 minutes. I don't know. But I would just recommend to anyone, like, I think you could appreciate it more if you listen to it, 2 listens instead of 1. So
Yeah,
I like the album a lot more now than I did. I never hated it, but I like it more now than before.
I will say, even though I had that close to the bottom, I mean, I really do like it, and I
Yeah,
definitely need to listen to it more times. I mean,
yeah,
I ran out of time
yeah.
trying to get ready for this ranking, and I've only heard it all the way through twice, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I
So,
definitely don't understand where like people compare it to like Saint Anger. Like, come on,
really,
it's not. Yeah, people like this is every time I ever see this come up, it's like a total throwaway album. Like, oh, don't even bother with it. I'm like, I don't know. I don't get the hate to that extent. But I was looking at like if you look at the reviews on Metal Archives, it makes a little more sense to me. I think it's sitting at an average of like 69%. I think that's pretty fair, but it's very like if you skim through the reviews, there's like a lot of 90s and then there's a lot of like 10 or 15. So there's not a whole lot of middle ground. I get that though.
yeah.
It's just
Um,
it's just overly hated.
I've actually never listened to. Oh my god, I'm my my brain. Saint Anger. I've actually never listened to it yet.
It's not very good.
I will someday. I've heard like a couple of the songs. Like
I can't defend it. I'll leave it at that.
yeah, I've heard the title track in Frantic. I think. Um, Me and my buddy just listened to Lulu actually like a few weeks
I've
ago.
never heard that.
No,
No.
it's something else.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I should probably
Um,
give it a listen. I've
it's
never been a Lou Reed fan, so I guess I was never in
Yeah,
a hurry to,
I haven't really either, but it's I applaud them for trying it. And
yeah.
I don't think it's the worst album ever made or anything. Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, I
But
mean, you got to give them credit, I think, for like trying new things. I always give people credit for trying new things, you know?
yeah,
I think you should try new things. I don't know.
exactly. And I totally applaud Priest for doing Nostradamus. Um
Yeah.
it's a super cool idea, and that's one album too that I think it'll move higher in my ranking for sure the more I listen to it. It's
Yeah, it
just
did for me.
I haven't had enough time with it at all to be able to put it higher than where it was.
Yeah.
All right. Um Number 9 we're on, I think.
Yeah.
I got Rockarola. Um
Nice.
yeah, I really like this album.
Yeah.
I
Another
will
album
say
that's just unfairly hated, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely. Um I think if you're, I mean, of course, if you're expecting Painkiller or Defenders of the Faith or something, and you go back to that, you're going to be either disappointed or totally taken off guard.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't sound anything. You could kind of compare it to parts of Sad Wings of Destiny,
Yeah.
but other than that, you don't really have any reference points from the rest
No.
of their catalog to compare it to. But I am a big sucker for like 70s hard rock and proto metal type
Yeah.
stuff. So, I mean, I really like this. And I would argue that if this was the only album Judas Priest ever recorded, um, it would be like a kind of grail for collectors.
No, I think so too. It'd
Like,
be like that, like a unsung, lost classic type, one hit wonder
exactly.
type album. Yeah,
Yeah. Because
I
there's a
agree.
lot of those from back in the early to mid 70s of bands that were playing pretty heavy stuff and did one or two albums and just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah,
And I think this would be like pretty high up in the rankings for those.
yeah,
But just the fact that it gets compared to the rest of the catalog, and it doesn't really sound like a Judas Priest album.
no,
Um, there are hallmarks there that you can some of Rob's vocals when he goes high, and some of the riffing here and there. I do
yeah,
totally agree with you about when he's in his lower register. I don't know. He's kind of got a weird tone to his voice when he's not singing high.
yeah,
That sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Even some of the stuff on Sad Wings kind of is just weird. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
hard to describe it kind of, but I think where he excels is when he gets more aggressive or into his higher range stuff.
Oh yeah, totally.
But again, I mean, I really like this album. There's some kind of pretty heavy stuff in places, and a few
Totally, yeah.
kind of epic spots that kind of hint towards where they're going to go from here.
Yeah.
One for the Road is a super cool opener. Yeah, Rockarola is just a memorable, catchy hard rock song. I really like the Winter kind of trilogy on there.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, those last couple songs.
That's on the first side, I think.
Oh, is it the first side? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Winter / Deep Freeze / Winter Retreat.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot it was so early on. Yeah.
It gets put in with Cheater at the end as well on streaming platforms, which is kind of weird because that feels like a different song to me. But
It does.
there's parts of Winter that I mean they're pretty like proggy.
Oh yeah, totally.
A lot of prog on this album. There's parts of that
right.
that like remind me of. Do you know the band Nectar at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I heard some like Nectar almost in spots. In that
I would,
song.
yeah, I would bet you that they were probably, or at least some of these guys were probably fans of like prog. You know.
Yeah. Totally.
Kind of like Steve Harris and Iron Maiden, like he's a big prog fan. I think
yeah.
I never have heard anyone talk about it, but they had to have, someone's a prog fan, I think, in Judas Priest.
Yeah, you can totally hear some of their influence. This is probably the album where you can hear their influences the most clearly because from here on, for a few albums anyway, they were really kind of innovators, I think, and then they kind of started to morph with the times, but I wouldn't say that I don't know. This is where you can hear their original influences, I guess I should say.
Yeah. And they would never really repeat it, you know?
No.
Yeah.
Never Satisfied is a really good song as well. Run of the Mill is kind of another pretty proggy one, and that's where Rob really starts doing his high-pitched vocals. Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, I read somewhere that that song was written after Rob was in the band to kind of showcase some of his vocal range. And Dying to Meet You as well. There's a lot of kind of like a lot of the riffs on here are sort of Sabbathy. They're like there's a lot of blues in some of the riffs, blues rock.
Yeah, almost kind of boogie sounding, but not a lot. Yeah, if they went too much, I'm not a big like boogie rock guy, but if they'd have pushed that, I wouldn't have liked this album as much as I do.
Yeah,
it's more heavy and
straight up. I'm not a huge fan of just straight up like blues rock either.
Me either, not at all.
But once it gets like heavy, like early Sabbath, I mean, there's no denying the blues influence there.
Nope.
Just in the scales and stuff that they're using in the riffs, but excuse me. But yeah, this is I don't know. This is just a great album, honestly.
Yeah.
And yeah, number 9. I don't know. I can't really put it any higher, just because of the other albums that are there. But I don't know.
Most people have that at their bottom, like 2 or 3. So
I think it's way underrated in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
Is it cool if I run out for like 1 minute?
Yeah, of course.
All right. I'll be right back.
Sure. Sorry, guys, if I haven't really been keeping up with the comments. I've been reading them. I don't want to interrupt Erik when he's talking, but let's see. Hellbent used to be top 2 or 3 for me. Yeah, man. No baloney. I've always wanted to love Hellbent for Leather, but I always felt like maybe it was something wrong with me. Like there's, I should love it more than I do, but I just can't really get into it. Running Wild, dude. Running Wild is a kick-ass song. I would say out of all the Judas Priest albums that I need to listen to more, I'm definitely going to listen to Hellbent for Leather more. I'm going to like force myself to at least maybe every couple months or at least once a year. I'm gonna play that and see if it grows on me a little bit. Has anyone heard? We talked about the new song "Panic Attack" at the beginning. I don't know if any of you guys have heard that. It's so fucking good. I think it's I think it's better for me. It's better than anything off of Firepower. So I think if that's an indicator at all to how the album's going to sound, and knowing Judas Priest, it probably isn't. They'll probably have a like Firepower had a lot of variety, like all the songs, and that's a good thing to say about it. I think is like all the songs kind of had their own individual identity, um, which is for me the way people should write songs. When you got 15 songs that all sound different than each other, I think you've succeeded. So I don't know what the new Priest album will sound like necessarily, but again, if Panic Attack is any indicator, I think it's going to be a killer album. So I'm super stoked for it. But yeah, check that. If you guys haven't heard Panic Attack, definitely check it out. It's just the guitar work is super killer. There's so many like really cool guitar solos. You got like Richie and Glenn just shredding. Scott Travis has some cool double bass parts, and Rob sounds amazing. I don't know if there's any there's any studio trickery going on, but he's like, and it's kind of faint in the hitting some killer high notes. I was just talking about Panic Attack again for a minute while you were gone.
Yeah, I was listening on my phone.
Yeah, I'm just super excited to hear what they do on that album. All right, so I think number 9, I think, right?
Yep.
So number 9, this is another one that I always had this album way lower. I never hated it, but way lower, and now I have it way higher. Ram It Down. Love that album cover, by the way. It's such a cool cover. This album really never did a lot for me until recently. I'm like, oh shit. I don't know what I was hearing, but I like it so much more now. Like you said, I like the heavier songs. And you might have heard this. Did you ever hear about how this was originally supposed to be it was going to be a double album?
No, I did not know.
I assumed there was going to be more songs, but it was supposed to be, they wanted to do, oh wait, no. This is supposed to be a double album with Turbo. Oh. They wanted to have like Turbo as like the party album, and then Ram It Down as the heavy album. That would have been weird, but whatever. Ram It Down, the title track's so awesome. It's a proto Painkiller. It's everything that you said. It's going in the direction of Painkiller, but it's also going in the direction of Turbo. Definitely leave off the cover. I forgot that this CD came with 2 bonus tracks, but they're just live songs. I don't know. I don't have too much to say about it other than I like it way more now than I did before. Even though I'm still probably not going to play it a ton, even though that I realize that I like it more now. It's not to the point where I'm going to be like playing it constantly, but I think Ram It Down is, if I were to make like a list of 20 Priest songs, I'd probably have it in there. I think it'd probably crack into my top 20. Hard as Iron. Yeah. I like all the tracks that are heavy. I don't like the turbo-ish sounding tracks. So I guess that does make it kind of an uneven album, but it's still, I think it's pretty damn good. Yeah. I'll listen to it again.
Yeah, I will too, honestly. That's one of my less listened to ones as well, for sure.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I've probably only listened to it 3 times, like ever.
Yeah, same. Number 8, I have Killing Machine, or Hellbent for Leather. Like you were saying, another inconsistent album, kind of. Some amazing songs here, but I don't know. Just compared to the albums that came before it, especially, it's just, or the 3 before it, I should say.
Yeah.
Definitely, I mean, I would argue that it's definitely less consistent than even Rock-a-Rolla, to be honest. But the highlights on it are pretty great. I mean, you have, let's see, I should have pulled this up already. Delivering the Goods is a really good opener. I like Rock Forever. It's pretty good. That's almost like got that kind of bluesy swing to it a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of a bluesier album, I would say. Like it's yeah.
And it's definitely more kind of streamlined overall than the few albums that came before it.
Yeah.
You can tell they were kind of, this is where they were starting to have probably a little bit more success, and you can tell that they're trying to write hits a little bit.
True.
Evening Star for me is a weird song because
it is weird.
I really like the verses, and I like the chorus as well, but it's just the way they fit with each other is just jarring to me. Every time that chorus comes in, it's just like
it doesn't really fit. Yeah,
it doesn't really fit at all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I don't know. I like the song, but I don't love it. Hellbent for Leather is a ripper. I love that song.
It is cool.
Love the chorus, especially with the offbeat hits. And it's a cool thing that Priest does a lot, especially in the kind of 78 to 84 era, is they have a lot of like offbeat riffs and stuff, offbeat rhythms that you don't really hear that much in metal otherwise. Anyway, great song. Take on the World, I'm not really a fan of. I don't know. I've never really been a fan of those kind of slower, plodding, anthemic type songs.
Me either. Yeah.
It's kind of, I can see what they were trying to do with that. And I mean, it's probably, it seems like they were trying to write a song that everybody would want to sing along to at a concert or something. And it probably works well for that, but I don't know. It's not a great song in my opinion.
Yeah.
Burning Up is pretty good, but not amazing. Killing Machine, again, is pretty good. Running Wild is a great song. It could be longer in my opinion. It's under 3 minutes, but it's awesome. Before the Dawn is kind of a ballad, but it's still pretty good. And then Evil Fantasies it's all right, but I don't know. Nowhere near a favorite for me either. Again, like you said, I wanted to put this album higher, but I don't know. It's just there's too many songs on it that I just don't really care that much about, even though it does have some fantastic ones. So
yeah, maybe they were stretching themselves a little bit too thin at the time, like because there was their third album in a row, and
I would say
fourth album, and second in that same year,
Yeah, I didn't look at the release dates. Stained Class is February 10th apparently, and this was October 9th. So that's 8 months. Between. That's
so
crazy.
I'm wondering if it was either A, like leftover songs that didn't make Stained Class, or it was B, they just didn't have a lot of time to write it, and that's just what they came up with,
Yeah, it kind of feels like they put a lot of effort into about half of the songs, and then the other half were just kind of rushed or something.
Yeah.
And I would argue, I'll say that for my next one. Never mind. Yeah, Take on the World.
Devin points out Take on the World is pretty terrible. I agree. I don't like that song at all.
Yeah,
but
same.
What can you do?
Same with United.
Yeah. It's like a United, basically. It's the United of this album. Yeah, I could see that. All right. What are we on, number 7?
8, I think.
8. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going with another album that I think it's great, but I always wanted to like it more. And this is probably their favorite, or at least top 2 or 3, but Screaming for Vengeance, what is this, 82, I think?
Yep.
So I love the cover, by the way. This might be my favorite Priest cover. It's just so badass.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this is for me. It is a great album. I definitely consider it a classic, but it suffers the same problem that I have with a lot of Priest albums, where it's just inconsistent. The heavy songs are just. This has some of their better heavy songs. I love, even though it's just an intro, I love the Hellion, how it leads into Electric Eye. So
Yeah.
cool. I mean, you still hear that on like commercials on TV and stuff. And then yeah, Bloodstone, Riding on the Wind. That's one of their best songs. Screaming for Vengeance.
Yeah.
That's a top 5 Priest song probably. You've got Another Thing Coming. Obviously, everyone knows that. That was a huge radio hit, and it's not bad. It's a good song. I think if it weren't overplayed, I would like it more. But I can't really say that it's not a good song. I don't really care for Devil's Child. It's okay. I don't hate it either. Same with Take These Chains. It's a fine song, but I'm not a big fan of it. So I like about 80% of this album, I would say. But the better songs on this album are like some of the best Priest songs ever. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I feel like this should be higher for me, but number 8, that's not bad.
No.
But again, I think most Priest fans, this is probably going to be in their top 2 or 3. But hey, we can't all have the same opinion. But man, the good songs on here are fantastic and really influential in like early 80s, like bands that would like speed metal bands and stuff that would start up around that time. Super influential on those bands.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean stuff like Screaming for Vengeance, that song. I mean, I guess you had Motorhead and stuff and some of the Maiden stuff, but that was some of the fastest metal happening at that point.
Exactly.
All right. Number 7, I have British Steel. And that's
oh shit. I just realized something because I lost my copy of British Steel. I'd left it out.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll just say, well, I'll talk about it next. British Steel is supposed to be my number 8, but
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't have a copy either. I thought I did. That's weird that you can't find yours, and I could have sworn I had it, but I don't.
Definitely have it. I just don't. I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah. So this is kind of one of those pairs, Killing Machine and British Steel for me, that could they're right neck and neck. Yeah. Because again, I could say a lot of the same things about this album as I did for Killing Machine. Yeah. It's where they're starting to really kind of streamline their sound. And some of the song, again, it's a really kind of inconsistent album to me.
Yeah, I agree.
But a lot of it works pretty well. And there's some amazing songs on here again. Rapid Fire, man.
Yep. that's my pick too.
An absolute ripper of a song.
Yep.
Metal Gods is, I mean, yeah, talk about proto speed metal. Rapid Fire is, I mean, just hugely influential, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's my favorite song from that album, easily.
Yeah, for sure. Metal Gods is pretty good, but I don't know. I never loved the chorus of it. It's just kind of really.
No, I don't either. Metal Gods.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
Yeah. It's just kind of really basic. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the rest of the song is good.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of another one like Evening Star, where it just doesn't really. When the chorus comes in, it's just like, oh, what's that? Yeah. Breaking the Law. As interesting. I'm looking at this on rateyourmusic.com, and Breaking the Law is the highest rated song on the album. 4.4 out of 5, which is like
weird,
super high. And it's a great song.
It is.
And I can see why it's rated highly, but I've heard it so many times. But
You
I
don't ever need to
still
hear it again, you know?
no, I never need to hear it again. I could
No.
probably like listen to the whole thing in my brain if I wanted to, but it's still a
Oh yeah.
great song. I mean, you can't deny the fact that it's a good song.
I
Um,
think honestly, like, yeah, that song, I think I would like it a lot more if it wasn't so overplayed.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Same thing with Living After Midnight. It's one of their more poppy kind of songs,
Oh yeah.
but I don't know. It works pretty well for me.
Yeah.
It's never going to be one of my favorites, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. That's a good song.
Grinder, I like Grinder quite a bit.
Yeah. Grinder's cool.
I don't like United. It's
I
too
don't either.
slow and plodding and
Yeah.
boring, to be honest,
It is.
and just repetitive. Um, uh, you don't have to be old to be wise is kind of it's not terrible, but it's not great either.
Yeah.
Um, the Rage, the Rage. No one ever talks about the song, but I love the Rage. I don't know, just the weird offbeat kind of thing with the bass, really prominent bass riff in the beginning. Those
Yeah.
kind of it's almost like a reggae type little guitar thing that they're doing. Um, and then it kicks into that heavy riff and I don't know, the end of the chorus where Rob's like soaring vocals and that riff kicks back in. I don't know. I love that song, to be honest. And
Yeah.
Steeler is a really good, really heavy one as well. So I would, I don't know. I would argue if you took let's see, that has nine. Oh, you know what? on Hellbent for Leather or Killing Machine, I never even talked about the Green Manalishi. I just realized
I love
because
it.
I was looking at the wrong version of it and it didn't have
I
it.
don't think
But
I've ever heard the Steel, or I keep wanting to say Steely Dan. I don't think I've ever heard the
Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac version. And then I want to say Stevie Nicks. I don't think I've ever heard. Yeah, I don't think I've heard the original.
It's really good. I really like that song, to be honest.
Okay. That's a band I still want to kind of investigate. I just haven't quite got there yet.
They're a weird band because the early stuff is like a totally different band than the like Rumors album and stuff that everybody knows.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And even Rumors, man, is like it's a good album, but everybody says it's one of the greatest albums of all time. I don't know. For me,
It sold a shitload of copies.
It did. Yeah.
It's like one of the it's one of the most popular like rock albums of all time, really.
Yeah. I like it a lot. I think The Chain is an awesome song. But I don't know, some of the other songs don't really do much for me. But anyway, if I was gonna recommend one Fleetwood Mac album, it would be Then Play On, which is like I want to say the last one of the kind of first era where it's kind of almost like proggy, sort of psychedelic a little bit, but because the early stuff is really bluesy, like just straight ahead blues rock for the most part. From what I've heard, I haven't heard all those albums, but that's my favorite one. And that one, certain versions of that have the Green Manalishi on them because it never was on an actual album. It was just released as like a single.
Oh, shit.
But I don't know. That's one of the more like I wouldn't say it's heavy, like guitar wise. They didn't really have the distortion so much, but just the I don't know. It's even the original is a really kind of moody, menacing kind of song. I don't know. I like it quite a bit, but I think I like the Judas Priest version more, and I would have to say that's like neck and neck for Hellbent for Leather for my favorite song on that album.
Cool.
Sorry, a little bit of a tangent there, but
that's all right.
I kind
of started it.
I would say if you took, say, the 5 or 6 best songs, probably the 5 best songs off of Killing Machine and British Steel, you would have just like one of the best Judas Priest albums. But
yeah,
both of them are just, I don't know, they have some duds on them. So
I
that's
agree.
why they're kind of down here for me.
Yeah. 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 So I'm going to back step a little bit. I'm going to go
Yeah.
back. This is my number 8. It was supposed to be British Steel. So my 7 is Screaming for Vengeance, because I got done with Screaming for Vengeance and I was like, wait a minute, I don't like British Steel more than this. And I was like, oh shit, that's because I forgot to bring it out. So my number 8 is British Steel. It was the first album I ever heard from them, so I guess it has I have a lot of fond memories of it. But yeah, like you said, it's uneven as far as like whenever they try to write like a really anthemic song, like for me, usually it doesn't work. Um, I mean, not always the case, but yeah, United, not a huge fan of that. I think aside from United, let's see, I think that's the only song. Yeah, I don't know. Metal Gods is okay. I would probably take off Metal Gods and United. I think I like everything else pretty well. Pretty well. Like you said, the Rage. That is a really cool song.
Yeah.
Not brought up too often. And I always wondered if Steeler's a cool song. I always wondered if that was the inspiration for the band Steeler. Do you know? Have you ever heard that band with
I
Malmsteen?
I've heard of them. I've never listened to them.
It's not bad. It's pretty good actually. I always assumed that they got their band name from the Judas Priest song, but I could be wrong. You don't have to be old to be wise. It's not bad. Not my favorite, but like you said, Rapid Fire. That's probably like a top 10 Priest song for me, and that's a good example of like that's what I want all Priest songs to sound like, but that's not their complete identity. That's just not who they are. But if they were if they wrote songs like that and Screaming for Vengeance all the time, I think
Yeah.
that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
but but they inspired it was those songs that inspired a lot of cool bands that would make entire albums that sounded like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, Grinder's awesome. I always liked it. um, yeah, Breaking the Law, like you said, it's a really cool song. I wish it weren't so overplayed, but hey, I guess it's overplayed for a reason. A lot of people really love it. uh, yeah, it's one of the songs that kind of probably allowed them to stay a super popular band, because you know sold I think probably a lot of albums were sold just because that song was on there, or at least back in the 80s, when people were buying music. uh, but yeah, Rapid Fire definitely my favorite. I don't like this album as much as I used to. Like I used to love this album because it was the first thing I heard from them. Maybe I don't like it as much anymore. I actually went through a phase where I'm like, I don't really like this album at all, minus like 2 songs. So some of it has aged pretty well with me. But and James, you're talking about the the movie of the Barbarian. I think they were called the Barbarian Twins. Uh, Erik, I don't know if you're familiar with that. There's like these two like juice head brothers from the 80s. They couldn't act or anything, but they were like super buff, and they were in a couple of movies. They were supposed to be like the next big action heroes, but uh, they couldn't act. They were just steroid heads. Um, I don't remember the movie you're talking about, James, but I remember those brothers because they were kind of hilarious. So, anyways, yeah. Sorry about the backtrack, but number 8
No worries.
would be British Steel, yeah, and then I'll do my number 6 after you do yours.
All right. Yeah, interesting point about like it would have been super cool to hear them. I mean, I guess the closest they ever got is Painkiller to
Oh,
making a
definitely, yeah,
fully like heavy album all the way through, but yeah, because they never did. It's kind of it's a weird um phenomena, kind of uh just like the fact, and it makes sense when you think about how groundbreaking some of this stuff was. I mean,
yeah,
the blueprint for heavy metal wasn't really laid out at this point very well.
yeah,
Um, so that's why you get so much kind of diversity on these albums, is just
yeah,
because they're trying different things and seeing what works. But
yeah.
yeah, um,
Plus, they
it's
have
just
their old school influences.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's just crazy that you have like a song like Rapid Fire on the same album as United. It's
Yeah,
like they're completely different.
yeah. I
But
do. I like variety though. I do like an album with different stuff. I don't know.
mhm. Yeah. I think that Priest was so good at those like ripping heavy songs in the
Oh
early
yeah,
to mid
totally.
80s that
Yeah,
yeah, they could have oh man, here I would listen to a whole album of those easily.
yeah, me
And
too.
you have between the I mean between I don't know, I would say between the first three albums of the 80s, you probably have almost an album full album's worth of material that's pretty damn heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Where are we?
Six, right?
Number six. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ooh, I have it on vinyl too. Mine's my copy's super beat up, but
Yeah. I don't remember where I got this, but it's in pretty nice shape. I have a CD
looks
of
like
it
it.
as well, but
Yeah.
yeah, I love that cover. It's just awesome.
There's a this band. Have you ever heard of the band Pelican? I think they're Canadian,
Yeah,
maybe.
they're like a post
I've
metal
never
band.
listened to their music, but like the one of the dudes from Pelican has that album cover tattooed on his chest, and it's really badass.
Nice.
Yeah,
That'll be a difficult tattoo to pull off. I feel like there's a lot of
lots of detail. Yeah,
detail in there. Yeah,
yeah, totally. Yeah,
but
probably took a good amount of time.
yeah, I mean, man, if that doesn't scream heavy metal, I don't know what does.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Anyway, um, great album. I'll say now we're into another kind of pair where I could flip flop this with my number five, and I
I
actually
think I know
did.
which one you mean.
I did exactly that just yesterday. I had this at number five, but now it's number six. So, I mean,
Yep.
exactly where these are, it doesn't really matter, to be honest.
Yeah,
But um,
because it's so close at some point where it's just like neck and neck. You know.
yeah, totally. I mean, this is might have been the second or third Priest album that I probably no, I guess it wasn't. I'm lying. But yeah, it was one of the earlier ones that I got anyway. Man, the Hellion into Electric Eye,
Yeah, it's awesome.
fantastic. One of the most epic openings of all time.
Totally. Yeah, I would like. I would never skip, the that intro because it's just so cool.
Yeah. Riding on the Wind, interesting story about that.
I love it. Yeah, it's
I was,
awesome.
like I said, I was kind of a latecomer to Priest. For whatever reason, I just hadn't heard. I don't know. I just didn't check them out for a long time,
I mean,
and
that kind of works too.
I actually heard Abbot's cover of "Riding on the Wind" from his first solo album. It's like a
Yeah,
bonus track. I heard
it's a
that
pretty cool
before.
cover.
I heard that before I heard the original, which is kind of weird.
It is funny.
But yeah, that song is awesome. Honestly, I like almost every song on this album. Bloodstone is great, just super. That's one of their ones that you could just. It's super. I don't want to say it's anthemic, but you can just sing along to it so
Yeah,
easily. But
yeah,
it's a great song. Take These Chains is, you know, half of this album is proto speed metal and half of it is proto hair metal almost.
yeah, yeah,
But there's still just enough grit on there and heaviness to I don't know. I'm not really a hair metal, glam metal guy. I don't
yeah.
know
I'm
if
not either. Minus a couple albums, but yeah,
yeah, but so this is like kind of some of the songs on here are like my riding the line for me of just where I can tolerate it. Like stuff like Take These Chains is just like, I don't know. It's a good song,
it's a
to be
pretty good
honest.
song. Yeah,
I don't really care about Pain and Pleasure. That's probably my least favorite one on here. It's not
yeah,
bad, but
yeah,
not great. Screaming for Vengeance, oh, absolute ripper.
yeah,
Love that song. I love that part in the middle where they stop and he goes to that one note higher and
yeah,
then they all kick back in.
yeah.
So awesome.
It is.
You've Got Another Thing Coming is another one that's like just super straightforward and basic, you could say even, but it's just I
Still
don't know, it
heavy.
works.
Yeah.
Works. Fever is pretty good as well, and yeah, Devil's Child is another one that I don't really love, but overall,
Hit Devil's Child is like, yeah, very like 80s, you know, like
yeah,
kind of glammy. Yeah.
yeah, totally. It's still fine, but not one of my favorites. Yeah, just fantastic album. I wish there was a little bit more stuff on it, like Electric Eye, Riding on the Wind, Screaming for Vengeance.
Oh,
But
I know.
I mean, it's even just for those three songs, it's
Yeah.
worth owning.
That elevates the album so much, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot, since you have the CD, do you remember there's a bonus track called Prisoner of Your
Oh,
Eyes? I don't
yeah.
remember that song.
I can I can remember the chorus in my head. Um,
Yeah.
I I meant to go through and listen to all the bonus tracks again one more time
Yeah.
before we
I'm
did
sure it's a
this,
good
but
song. I don't remember it though.
to listen to it again. Yeah, I kind of when I was doing when I was listening to all these and preparing for the ranking, I was kind of trying to not listen to the bonus tracks.
Yeah, because
It
they're not
influenced my like
important.
yeah, but and some of them are weird. Like there's I feel like on Stained Class there's like a I forget what it's called, Fire Burns Below or something. It's a bonus
Oh
track.
yeah,
It sounds I haven't listened to it forever, but
me
from what
either.
I remember it sounds like really 80s. It's almost like it sounds like Turbo era, and it's just like I don't know why they would put it on there. Some of the bonus tracks are not from the same era at all as the
Oh
album that
really?
they put on. It's kind of weird,
Oh
but
shit. I
yeah.
guess it's obvious why they didn't, have them on the album.
Yeah,
It's not like they were, they just didn't make the cut, really.
yeah. I should go listen to those again, but
Yeah, me
thinking
too. But oh well, they're not important overall.
no.
All right, so my number 6 is Defenders of the Faith. What, 1984, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a pretty good companion piece to Screaming for Vengeance. In fact, I kind of go back and forth between the two of which one I like more. But yeah, Free Will Burning. That song could have easily been on Screaming for Vengeance. Probably why it's my favorite. I remember always hearing on the radio, "Some Heads Are Gonna Roll." That got a lot of radio play, even in the early 2000s, which is the first song I ever heard from this album. I think it's awesome, really heavy. Love Bites. I'll pass on Love Bites, and it's okay. The Sentinel's awesome. Defenders of the Faith title track is awesome. Let's see. Eat Me Alive is pretty good too, actually. I forgot about that one. I don't really remember Night Comes Down too well.
That's
I'm
like
really
a
bad with track names too, because when I listen, I always like listen to albums and I don't really pay attention to the titles. So sometimes I fail with like remembering which song is which.
yeah, I totally
Except
do
for
that too.
some though, like Free Will Burning, I would never forget about that. That song is awesome. I don't
Night
remember Jawbreaker as well either.
um Night Comes Down is like a slower kind of moody one,
Okay.
but it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is probably the one you're going to talk about next because there's no. You were talking about how albums go in twos, so obviously
Yeah.
this is it's like the cousin to Screaming for Vengeance. I also have this cool 30th anniversary edition. I don't know if you've ever seen
Oh,
this.
nice.
It's pretty sweet. It comes in this like slipcase thing, and it's got 3 CDs. It's got the album obviously, then it's got CD2 recorded live at the Long Beach Arena in 1984 on the Defenders tour, and then it's got what is this? Oh, okay. It's got 2 dates of the Defenders tour. They're different set lists though, so that's pretty cool. So I guess they played 2 dates at the Long Beach Arena, but they played different set lists, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I haven't listened to these live versions in a long time. It's a pretty nice set. It's got a huge booklet, and yeah, definitely worth getting.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I could go. I don't know. I could, depending on when I did a ranking, I think this would flip flop with Screaming for Vengeance, like constantly. I think it's, they might even be tied in my opinion. I don't know. I think maybe Screaming, maybe Screaming is a tad bit stronger, but I could flip flop these almost any day. Um, I think they're both about just as heavy as each other. I think the strong songs like Free Will Burning, I think is pretty comparable to Electric Eye, but yeah, I like this album quite a bit. I actually haven't listened to it in a long time. I should have probably listened to it more in preparation, but I've always liked it.
Yeah. Number 5. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. I could.
yeah, I figured.
I had this at my number 6 yesterday, and then I listened to it again and had to put it at number 5.
Yeah,
It's just, to me, it's a little bit more consistently good than Screaming for Vengeance. There's only, I mean, I don't know. It's right neck and neck to
yeah,
me. Um,
exactly.
and they're really similar albums overall too, like just from the overall kind of production sound. And I mean, you look at the covers side by side,
Yep.
it's obviously like very similar vibe kind of to them.
How much the cover of this album that had to have been influential on Voivod for their album
Oh,
covers, you know?
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, had to have.
I wonder, do you know Tarkus by ELP?
Yeah,
I
it's like
wonder
the
if
same cover, isn't it?
it kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
some weird like animal attached to a tank,
yeah,
a bunch of guns on it. Yeah, kind of
yeah.
a weird
Like
idea.
it's a weird cover.
Yeah,
It probably shouldn't be as cool as it is, but it
yeah,
is cool and it's just cool for what it is, you know, because it's so weird
yeah.
looking.
It's completely ridiculous,
It is
but
ridiculous. It makes
but
no sense. I guess
yeah,
it kind of reminds me of Voltron. I guess that maybe that's why I like it.
but yeah. I will say, I'm not a huge fan of the drum sound on this album. The snare drum has that super big gated reverb 80s thing, which you don't get on this album. The drums on this album sound better.
I've always been a
But
sucker for that sound, actually.
oh yeah,
The
okay.
gated reverb, I love it. I don't know why.
So the thing with this album is I don't I can tell it's there, but if I'm not paying attention to that, it doesn't really bother me at
Yeah.
all. Um,
Maybe you don't like it because maybe it sounds too generic. You know, like so many '80s albums had that sound.
yeah, yeah. Everyone just hopped on that bandwagon. Seems
Did you
like
ever hear that? Do you know who created that the gated reverb sound?
no.
It was Phil Collins.
Oh, okay. Like
I don't
in
know.
the
I
air.
don't know if it was him that created it or if it was a studio or if it was like a technician. But he was
Right.
the first one that like used that sound.
Okay. Did not
Yeah,
know
weird.
that.
Huh? But yeah, I hear that criticism a lot. So I guess it's a sound you either love or hate. But I'm a sucker for it.
Right.
It does kind of
Uh,
take away. It does kind of take away some character, though, right? Because
it's
it's more of a studio sound, not a live sound. You know,
yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
it's not like
Um,
when someone plays drums, you don't get that sound out of playing a
no,
drum kit.
not at all.
But yeah,
Yeah, there's certain places where it works and certain places where it doesn't work
yeah,
for me. And some I don't know, the most hit and miss area for me is probably in metal, because I mean it totally works for you know some of the 80s like pop kind of
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
but
Like cheesy
anyway,
'80s stuff.
yeah, which I like some of that stuff too.
Yeah,
um but yeah, Free Will Burning, fantastic opener. The
yeah,
whole
it's awesome.
first side of this album especially is just awesome.
Yeah,
uh Jawbreaker is great. Rock Hard Ride Free is just total like fist pumper sing
yeah,
along type track, but
yeah. I
awesome.
love the chorus. Yeah, the chorus. I've forgotten until now what that chorus sounded like. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was listening to this driving home from work yesterday, and in the car, and I was just like singing along to that. Um, super hardcore, but
Yeah, it's very memorable.
the Sentinel, man, I love that song.
Yeah, Sentinel's awesome.
Yeah, that's maybe, I don't know, maybe like a top 10 Priest song for me. It's close anyway.
I could see
Um,
that.
Love Bites is cheesy as hell, but
Yeah, I could do without Love
it's,
Bites.
I don't mind it, but
I don't either.
one of my less favorite ones on here. Eat Me Alive is pretty good.
Yeah, I like it.
Some heads are gonna roll is another one that's kind of like really straightforward. It's kind of the you've got another thing coming of the album if you
Yeah,
want to go there. But again, it works.
it's pretty
Um,
heavy too. Like it's got some heavy parts. I like the heavier parts of the song, like the
yeah,
chorus. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Night Comes Down is like a kind of a mellower, um, kind of moody, kind of dark one. But I don't know. I really like that one as well. Um, Heavy Duty, I could take it or leave it, but I do
yeah.
like the way it flows into Defenders of the Faith at the end. It's a cool way
Okay.
to end the album as well.
I'm
So
kind of struggling to remember that one. I need to re-listen to this album.
yeah, I don't know. I can't remember much of that song right now, other than just the heavy duty of the chorus, which is
Okay.
kind of again really cheesy, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Just yeah, a little more consistent to me than Screaming. So
Just barely, but I agree.
just
Yeah.
again, it could change again tomorrow. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. My number 5. Um, this used to be my favorite. I kind of actually feel bummed that I have bumped it down to number 5. So I think it's probably better than that, but I don't know. That's where it's at for now. And this could probably flip flop with my number 4, but Sad Wings of Destiny. I have nothing at all bad to say about this album. I actually like every single song on here. Um, Victim of Changes, that seems to be kind of a fan favorite. A lot of people really like the live version. Um,
Yeah.
I could see why. If you've never Have you ever seen there's like a really famous live version. You can watch it on YouTube. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but it's really cool. I think it's from whatever tour came after this. Uh, Everyone Loves the Ripper. Kind of hard not to like that. That's like the heavy song on, or the heavier song on here. Um, I love Tyrant. Tyrant might actually be my favorite song on this album, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Genocide, Epitaph, Island of Domination is cool too. Um, yeah, this is kind of building. It kind of builds on Rockarola. It's kind of like a step up above Rockarola, in a good way. It's kind of like everything improving on what they did already on Rockarola. Apparently, and I never really realized this. Apparently, Al Atkins has some writing credits on this album. Uh,
Right.
he's got a writing credit on Victim of Changes. I literally never noticed that until just now.
Yeah, I think it was a song called "Whiskey Woman" or something. Was one of
Oh
the.
shit!
I feel like I read somewhere just the other day that it started off as two songs, "Whiskey Woman" and something else.
Well, it is almost 8 minutes long. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an amazing song though. I guess we were
yeah,
talking about how Rock-a-Roll is kind of proggy. This album's kind of proggy too,
totally.
because I guess it's probably a pretty similar. I don't know if they wrote any of these around the same time, but they were still kind of in that mindset, I guess. Yeah, actually, I forgot until now how awesome Victim of Changes is, especially for being almost 8 minutes. Pretty
Yeah,
badass. And the
doesn't.
Ripper, that's like a proto thrash. It's got that
Yeah,
cool almost like thrash riff. Um, yeah, I'm 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 kind of bummed that I have it at 5, but that's okay. I guess that's because these next 4 I just like so much more. But this is one of those albums where it's like anyone having this at like their number 1, I would never argue with that. Uh, Used to be my favorite. What do you got?
I have what used to be not my number one, just stained class. Um, I mean, it's hard to these top few albums. It's hard to even talk about
Yeah,
them because
yeah,
they're so fantastic. I mean, this is just stuff like this totally helped just make the blueprint for metal going forward. It's
Oh, totally.
crazy that this came out in 1978.
I know.
Um, but
Before its time, I would say. Yeah.
I will say, I don't know. Yeah, this was my number one favorite album for a while. But it's just, I don't know. I listened to it again the other day. I didn't think I even really needed to listen to it to do the ranking,
Yeah.
but it actually fell down a couple spots, and I'm surprised that it's at number 4 for me. But I mean, Exciter, proto speed metal already,
Totally.
1978. Um, just love that song. Amazing.
Yeah.
White Heat, Red Hot is a kind of more mid-paced one, but still just fantastic. Uh, better, better by You, Better Than Me, which is a cover of this band, Spooky Tooth.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is a great album if you
Okay.
if you're into like 70s rock. I don't know. It's it's kind of got some like really heavy stuff on it, and then it's kind of got some more, I don't know, some more psychedelic kind of stuff, and it's really diverse. It's a great album though.
I'm
Worth
gonna check
checking
that
out.
out.
Um, uh, I kind of, I don't know. I'm torn between whether I like the original or the cover better, but it's a good version of it. But it's not one of my favorite songs on the album. Um, the main riff kind of, I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of that main riff. It's good, but
Yeah.
it's not amazing.
Yeah.
Um, Stained Class is awesome. Invader is really good, but not one of my favorites.
Yeah, I would say so. Same here.
Saints in Hell, I love, especially that like when he's singing the title of the song, and he's kind of like, I don't know, he's like warping his voice, like starts at one pitch and goes down slowly. I don't know, it's just awesome. Um, Savage is another really good one. Um, some crazy high notes in that. Beyond the Realms of Death is just
Awesome.
one
Yeah.
of the
Awesome
best.
song.
It's kind of almost a ballad
Yeah.
for a lot of it. I guess you could even call it sort of a power ballad if you want to, but
Yeah.
I mean,
But not cheesy, you know?
no,
It's
it's
more
not like
dark.
a power ballad.
Yeah.
It's it's just one of the best heavy metal songs ever written,
Yeah.
along with Exciter. Um, and then Hero's End is another one that's really good, but coming after Beyond the Realms of Death, I don't know. It just kind of it's a little underwhelming for me.
That
I
makes sense.
I feel like maybe I would like it a little bit more if it was the second to last song and then they closed with Beyond the Realms of Death, but I don't know. It's still a fantastic album. This is like a 9.5 out of 10 for me. I'm really nitpicking at this point.
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean, it's just fantastic and a classic for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an album that I like every time I listen to it, I like it a little bit more.
That's yeah, I don't know. I had that happen for a long time, and then the last time I listened to it, I liked it a little bit less for whatever reason. So,
That happens too. Yeah, that happens sometimes too. Sometimes
and
it kind of goes up and down.
who knows? Like, I might listen to this again next time, and then it'll be my number one again, or
Yeah,
whatever. Who knows? Interesting album cover too. I don't
I
know
know.
what exactly is
It's
going
very
on in
cool.
it, but I always liked it.
It just looks like a cool like art piece, you know?
Yeah.
Very very artsy. All right, my number 4. This one's kind of flip flopped recently, and this was an album I never really listened to a whole ton until the last couple years. But yeah, Sin After Sin. This came out, was it 70, 78, 77?
Yeah.
A lot of people call this like their progressive album. Um, I guess I could see that. It is kind of progressive. I mean, not super, but there's a lot of like variation in the songwriting. I guess I could see why people would call it that, because it's like the songs are really they're not as simple, like the structures and stuff. There's a lot more going on in like the songwriting department. There's a lot of like different parts to, so I guess they are kind of I guess they are more complex. A lot of the songs, anyways, maybe not all of them. Like Sinner's such an awesome song. Like when you play it, like it sounds like it's going to be one of the straightforward Priest songs, but like if you pay attention, there's a lot of different little mini parts that go on in it. Like it's not as simple as it sounds. Diamonds and Rust. Probably my favorite would probably be track 5, Let Us Pray, Call for the Priest. That one's awesome. Dissident Aggressor, that's very famous for being covered by Slayer, but that's an amazing song. I always forget, like these remastered versions, I keep forgetting how they have bonus tracks on them, but I don't remember any of the bonus tracks. But this one's got Race with the Devil, which is an awesome movie.
That's a cover of like a kind of heavy psych proto metal band called Gun that put out a couple
I've heard the name.
The first album from 1969 has that song on it, and it's kind of famous for having the first. I think it was the first cover that Roger Dean ever did.
Oh shit!
Cover. Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a cool song. It's one of the really early examples of kind of dual twin guitar stuff as well.
Damn.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it says right here on the back too. It says the Race with the Devil was recorded during the earlier years of the band. So.
Oh yeah,
that's cool. Yeah.
That band also had the Gurvitz brothers in it, which they went on to have a band, Baker Gurvitz Army, with Ginger.
Yeah,
Baker.
I've heard that.
And Three Man Army as well was another one of their bands, which is they're again cool, like heavy 70s heavy rock stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of that band, but I've never listened. Yeah, so this album was also kind of notable for having a very young Simon Phillips on drums. He would go on to be like this crazy like fusion prog drummer, but he was like 19 years old on this album. He was just a session member, though. He was never officially in the band. Oddly enough, like he's like one of the best drummers of all time, but I don't prefer him. I actually like Dave Holland more, just because Dave Holland's more of just like a powerhouse like metal drummer. But for a 19-year-old kid, like who obviously would go on to do much bigger things, but it's just kind of cool, just the fact that he was, that he plays on this album. I think Sinner and Let Us Pray, Call for the Priest, those are probably my two favorites, and then third, probably Dissident Aggressor. But yeah, this, like I said, what's so cool about this album is there's so much more going on than there's so many layers to it. It's just I think the writing is a lot more complex than what you what you expect. So I see why people call it kind of like their prog album. It's a complex album that kind of you got to pay attention to it and pick out. There's a lot of cool stuff going on that if you just have it on for background music, you're not going to catch on to it as much as I think you need to sit down and listen to it and actually like pay attention to everything that's going on. It's a lot more complex than what you would expect or what seems.
Yeah, for sure. More on that later.
Yeah, good.
Number 3, Sad Wings or Destiny. This was one of the first few records I ever bought, like vinyl records.
Oh, sweet.
On this like bright orange.
Oh, look at that.
Kind of cool.
That is cool.
I don't always love colored vinyl, but like
it's so nice to look at.
Yeah, and when it kind of matches the album cover, then it works for me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is talked about often as one of the best metal albums of all time, and it's easy to see.
I would agree.
Why.
Yeah.
I mean, no one was doing this in 1976. You could
not that if there's other people doing it, I don't know about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you had Sabbath, of course. Sabbath was on let's say
They
Sabbath,
had like
Bloody
they had like
Sabbath.
5 or 6 albums already by the
Yeah,
time that came out. Yeah,
but that's a different. Judas Priest is a totally different
totally.
beast
Yeah.
than Aussie era Sabbath, at least.
Oh yeah.
And you could argue, I mean, Rainbow,
Rainbow.
first
Yeah.
couple Rainbow albums, Rainbow Rising, has
Yep.
some pretty epic stuff on it. That's the thing with this too, is this is more epic, and
It is. Yeah.
I don't know what word to use for it exactly. Compared to early Sabbath, there's a lot less blues influence.
Yeah. More complex, maybe.
Yeah, the blues influence that was really there on Rock-a-Rolla is almost gone at this
Yeah.
point. This is just almost more kind of classical influenced, I would say, in a way. And
Yeah.
this is hugely influential, I would say, on, I mean, all kinds of metal, but especially like, I can see a lot of the kind of epic metal bands like especially Iron Maiden for sure, and
Oh
Manila
yeah.
Road and stuff like that. I'm sure were hugely influenced by this, especially the '70s Priest stuff.
Yep.
Um,
No doubt.
but yeah, I mean, Victim of Changes, amazing song,
Yeah.
one of the best metal songs of all time.
Yeah.
The Ripper, love that as well. I kind of wish it was longer. It's like what, 2.5 minutes or something.
Yeah. It's so short.
Yeah, but it gets so much done in that
It does.
short amount of time.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that they never fixed the typo. So originally it was supposed to be Dreamer, and then the next song was going to be Deceiver, and they flow into each other. But the
No shit.
Gold Records, which put this out originally, did a typo, and they put Dreamer Deceiver and then Deceiver. There was a miscommunication.
Oh, okay. I always wondered about that. I'm like, why the hell is this called that? Why did they use the same, the same word? Okay.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it makes way more sense if the first song is Dreamer and it goes into Deceiver.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's those two songs together. You have to listen to those back to back.
Yep.
And just awesome. And then again, Prelude into Tyrant. You kind of have to listen to those together as well.
I love when they do that, when they do the songs that kind of bleed into each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of bands have done that, like in the '70s and stuff, but it's still cool,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Tyrant. I love those backing vocals in the chorus.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Genocide is another great one. I will say Epitaph. Awesome. Epitaph is the ballad, and it's a good song, but I don't know. It feels a little out of place to me on here. I guess it's kind of a similar vein that to like Dreamer. I'm just gonna call it Dreamer because that's what it's supposed to be. But yeah, I don't know. If I was gonna cut one song off the album, it would probably be Epitaph, but it's still good.
Island of Domination's kind of weird too. Kind of a weird song.
I guess that one I guess I kind of spoke too soon. There's a little bit of a blues kind of shuffle on that one.
If you're gonna pick like one song off this that could go on Rock-a-Rolla, that'd probably be the one.
Yeah,
that could have came. Maybe it was written at the around the same time. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it could have been. I feel like this and Rock-a-Rolla. I think I've heard that a lot of this stuff was written before they recorded Rock-a-Rolla.
That would make a lot of sense.
But the label or somebody wanted them to kind of stick with the bluesier type stuff.
Yeah, well, that was what was popular at the time, bluesy hard rock.
Yeah, exactly.
So I could see how early on producers and stuff would be like, no, you don't need to be making this music no one's heard yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know what anyone would have thought of this as producing this album or putting it out. They would go, who is going to listen to this? Because we don't what is this?
Right? Yeah.
Again, to go back to some of the other things you could compare it to. I mean, you had Rainbow, you had early Scorpions, You had, I mean, Thin Lizzy, but Thin Lizzy never had a full-on metal album in the 70s, right? You had songs like Emerald, for instance, from the same year, which are totally.
But nothing else on that album sounds like it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. That's by far the heaviest, most epic song on that album. And this album, for the most part, is just about all in that kind of style. So hugely groundbreaking, amazing.
Love the album cover too. Such a cool.
Yeah. Super awesome.
Yeah.
It
fits fits the album. It has like this, I don't know, like classical feeling to it, you know, like
this guy looks like he could be singing like Epitaph or something.
Exactly.
Those moodier tracks.
And
I think that's the origin of the Judas Priest logo, probably, that he's wearing as a necklace on there.
Okay, good point. I never thought of that.
I don't think that's anywhere on Rock-A-Rolla. I could be wrong, but
I don't think so. Not that I remember. Yeah, I doubt it. All right, my number 3. This is probably my biggest wild card of the entire discography. And this is where I would say 99% of people will disagree with me, and they're probably right. That's just, you know, I got into this album early on and loved it, and it just has stuck with me. So Jugulator. I know one person that thinks about this album the way I do, and maybe there's probably a few others, but not very many. But I got this album when I was a teenager, and at the time it was like the heaviest thing I'd ever heard. But like I don't know, with me it's aged well in my brain. When a lot of people are like, oh, I wish, like Painkiller never got a sequel. I'm like, this is the sequel to Painkiller. Like, why? Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's some like groove metal influences. I mean, Rob loved Pantera, and I'm sure some of the other guys probably did too, and it shows. And I'm not a big Pantera fan, but there's definitely, if there weren't this album would exist or would not exist if it weren't for Pantera, probably. And like you said, there's some filler on here, and maybe it's not the most dynamic album at times, and there aren't a lot of standout riffs. I would agree with that too. I love Tim's like over the top performance. Like, he's so over the top here. This is probably I've heard a lot of albums that he sang on. This is my favorite, by far. But I just love the heaviness. And I love how technical it is too. Like, some of these songs are really technical. Like the solos are like super shreddy. Glenn Tipton's he's definitely pushing himself and like keeping up with, the modern, shred guitar players of the time. And so I really appreciate that. And Cathedral Spires is probably like a top 5 Priest song for me. Some of the lyrics on here are pretty juvenile. If you pay attention, but I don't care about that. I'm not always a huge lyric person. Sometimes I am, though. I definitely like to read lyrics, and yeah, they're pretty juvenile here. They're pretty not a lot of artistic integrity in some of these lyrics, but that's okay. And it barely sounds like a Judas Priest album. Like, if this had a different singer on it, you'd probably be like, oh, this is some 90s band, right? If you didn't have a singer that sounded like Halford, like, you would never probably know it was a Judas Priest album. So it really stands out. But yeah, I just love it. And for me, it's just remained one of my favorites. I don't listen to it a lot anymore, but every time I put it on, like, I just don't get tired of it. I know it's an odd thing to say, but that's just how I feel about it. Just an album that I love. It's like one of my favorite metal albums of all time.
Damn.
Yeah. Maybe not like top 5, but I just love it a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I can't argue with anything that you said, to be completely honest.
Yeah. I mean, I get it why it's not a lot of people's favorites, so, but it just is for me.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's not, if I want to listen to Judas Priest, I'm not going to reach for that necessarily.
No, me either.
if you don't go into it expecting um, a regular Judas Priest album, it's good for what it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it gets a little too much hate. Like I have seen people say though, like on message boards and stuff, like if Rob Halford had sang on it, it'd probably be a lot higher regarded. So
Wow. Yeah, I never thought of that, but yeah, I
yeah.
mean, if Rob was on it, I bet it would it would be way higher rated actually, which is
Yeah.
weird. And I'm not a huge fan of Ripper's vocals, but they're fine. They're totally fine. I mean, I think he gets a lot of flack for, I mean, more than he deserves, I would say.
Yeah. He if you listen to that first Iced Earth album he's on, that album I think is his best vocal performance. And the reason is because he's more like it's more creative. Like he I actually like him on Jugulator. Like I like him when he's at his most over the top, like doing all the crazy screams. And he does some of that on that Iced Earth album, but he's more like I feel like it's more him being himself. And there's more variation. Like he's I think he just cared. I don't know. I don't want to say cared more, but he put more personality into it. I think.
Right.
But
Yeah. I
I love
mean,
the over the top parts on Jugulator.
yeah. I wonder if he kind of maybe didn't go as far as he would have liked to on Jugulator simply because, I mean, that's I can't imagine stepping into that position
Yeah.
after, I mean, especially after Painkiller too,
Oh, I
and like
know.
just going into this band that's been around for, I mean, what, 30 years almost at that point too, and like
Yeah.
you kind of you wouldn't want to be that guy that's going to come in
No.
and start trying to steer the
No.
ship.
Not at all. Yeah. I mean, he probably just did what they asked him to.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Number
Two left.
two. Number two. Sin After Sin.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes this is my favorite. I've loved this album since I first heard it, and it's not one that I checked out for a while.
Same here.
Really honest.
Yeah. I didn't hear it for the longest time.
Again, super cool album art.
Yeah.
I don't know who did these. I
Me either. Yeah.
early ones. I should look it up. They have a
Gives
lot
it a
of,
very dark looking vibe to me.
yeah, and it kind of fits with the vibe of the album as well.
Yeah.
The back cover is cool too.
Oh
I have
yeah.
this, like, I think it was a promo copy or something. It's like got this weird chunk ripped off, so I had
Yeah.
to
Probably a
read some
promo.
of the song titles. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. I mean, you start things off with Sinner, just
I
amazing
love it.
song. Love that break halfway through too.
Yeah.
Go to a different.
It starts off sounding like it's going to be this like just straightforward song, like rocking and easy and catchy, but it gets really like dramatic.
Yeah, it gets almost like a kind of like neoclassical metal type feel
Yeah.
halfway through.
Yeah.
Diamonds and Rust. I meant to check out the Joan Baez original before doing this, but
I have not heard it.
I've never heard it either. But
Yeah.
man, that song rips on here. That's a
Yeah.
great song.
Yeah.
Starbreaker is more straightforward, but just super catchy, super memorable. Last Rose of Summer. That's one of my favorite ballads from them, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic song. Even though it's really mellow. Let Us Pray, Call for the Priest / Raw Deal.
That's
Those
my
are
favorite.
those are both like just rippers. Maybe not quite on par with Sinner, but like right up there. Again, like you said, complex and like so many different sections.
Yeah.
But all the riffing is great throughout. Awesome songs. Here Come the Tears is kind of a slower, not quite doomy one, but getting there sort of.
Yeah.
I guess it is kind of doomy, to be honest. And then Dissident.
Kind of is.
I love the way how it flows into that as well too. From Here Come the Tears into Dissident Aggressor, just kind of slowly fades in after that, but it almost like goes right into it.
Yeah, it totally sets it up.
And again, like just a super short song too. That's under 3 minutes, I want to say.
Yeah,
And
but it feels like it's 4 or 5 minutes, you know?
yeah, just yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I think I heard the Slayer cover of that before I ever heard this actually too. So
I did. I definitely did.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely did.
And man, yeah, shout out to Simon Phillips on this. This is one of the earliest examples of double kick drumming that I can think of in metal, and it really elevates this, in my opinion.
Totally.
That's like one of the things that really bumps this up above like Stained Class for me.
Yeah.
Is I mean, Les Binks is a good drummer as well. I think Les Binks was on that. I mean, they've always had good drummers, but I feel like, I don't know, I would have loved to hear if Simon Phillips had stayed in the band too. It would have been interesting, but
it would have been.
Yeah, just a fantastic album. I love every song on here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that album is going to grow with me even more over time, because I got into it, like you said, I got into it pretty late. I think if I had been listening to it this whole time, I think it'd probably be my number 2.
Yeah, it's just lower rated for some reason by a lot of people compared to Sad Wings and Stained Class. And I don't know. Yeah, I listened to those way
it's a
earlier
sleeper
than I
album.
listened to that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you mind if I run for like 1 minute again?
No, I'm gonna do the same.
All right.
I've been drinking energy drinks, so yeah, dude. I'll be right back too.
All right. Cool.
Oh, coming back. I beat him. So, how do people feel about Jugulator? Is there anyone that likes this album besides me? I'd be curious.
Sorry. Little intermission there, I guess.
Yeah, I just got back too.
Yeah.
Okay. It's my number 2. Going with Stained Class.
Nice.
Yeah. This is another album really that like I was kind of late to also. I never really realized it, but like half their albums I didn't really hear until later. But yeah, this album kind of battles from I kind of go back and forth between this one and Sin After Sin. I mean, they're totally different sounding albums though. But yeah, I can see why this album is like a lot of people would probably have this at their number 1. I mean, yeah, Exciter, being like a proto speed metal song. I was gonna say something about it and now I can't remember. something specific, but yeah, Invader, Saints in Hell, Beyond the Realms of Death, definitely one of their best songs, probably. Um, I actually have a friend who has an argument about this album. It took me a while to see his point, but so he says that this, in his opinion, and he's an older dude, he says in his opinion, this is the first true heavy metal album. At first, you hear something like that, and you initially just want to argue or push back on it, but I think he should make a video about it because like he had and I can't remember exactly the way he put it, but he just kind of made a point to where like I don't know, when did the second Rainbow album come out? Because that you could probably make an argument.
76, but you still kind of have. I mean,
maybe not the first Rainbow album, but
Rising.
Yeah, Rising. Is that 76?
76, yeah. So same year as Sad Wings.
And that's 2 years before this, so I don't know. That might kind of nip this argument in the bud.
Well, I don't know though, because I'm not gonna pull it out. It's back in there, but I gotta get a new shelf for my CDs. But you still got songs on there like "Do You Close Your Eyes," for instance. You know, which is kind of almost like a boogie rock song and stuff.
True. Yeah.
Starstruck is kind of leaning that direction as well. I feel like that album gets kind of elevated because of like A Light in the Black and Stargazer.
Stargazer, yeah.
But which are amazing songs, but I don't think it's totally like heavy metal all the way through.
True.
And I would say that Stained Class is. I would agree with your friend.
Yeah.
And I mean you could argue Sabbath as well.
Yeah.
But
and that's going to be everyone's argument is like, what about Sabbath? You know.
But again,
I think what he meant was like modern heavy metal. Like what
exactly.
heavy metal would become, and Sabbath weren't really that. You know.
Sabbath was obviously a huge influence on Priest, I'm sure, as well as
totally
those other. I mean, every metal band of all time, but I feel like Priest kind of started the sound that would become what most of the '80s metal was based on.
Yeah,
you know, that kind of faster, kind of more aggressive style. I mean, Sabbath had their moments as well. Yeah, I mean, Symptom of the Universe, stuff like that, for sure. But and again, Sabbath, like a lot of their albums had one or two mellow songs on them as well.
Oh yeah,
you don't have a mellow song on Stained Class.
Yeah,
right?
And Sabbath were just like they were just heavy. They never really were trying to be though. They just had a heavy sound, but like Sabbath never called themselves a heavy metal band ever.
No. And yeah, that's the one band too where I struggle with. I mean, I don't want to not call them metal, right?
Because I know, me too.
They are, but at the same time,
when you think about it, labels are just labels, though.
I know,
they're not really important, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's stupid. It's stupid to me to call Black Sabbath heavy metal, but then not call Deep Purple or Uriah Heep. Or stuff like that metal. It's like, oh, that's hard rock. Well, it's splitting hairs.
Yeah, it is.
But then
and those bands probably never called themselves metal either, you know?
No,
they're just,
exactly.
They just happen to be heavy.
Yeah. And you get into that zone of where this band is almost as heavy as that band, which is almost as heavy as this one. And you could just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line? You don't really need to.
Yeah.
It's kind of stupid. But
I think Priest, the late 70s Priest, I think, is the most influential on the early 80s metal bands that would come out.
Yeah,
and
totally.
like what would be called heavy metal from there out. So I think that's where people could make a strong argument for that. Sabbath were influential in just creating heavy rock and heavy metal entirely, but Priest would form that more modern, you know, like traditional heavy metal. Pretty much probably wouldn't exist without Priest, you know.
No.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So it looks like we're going to have the same number one.
Yeah. All right. I mean,
yep.
Gotta Be Painkiller.
Yep.
I just
love it.
I almost didn't want to put this at number one because it's kind of a cliche at this point.
It kind of is, but not only kind of. Only kind of though.
It is
You know,
for
I think most people, especially like a lot of the older Priest fans, kind of don't even like this album. Like a lot of the like, you know.
I can totally see that as well because it doesn't sound anything like most of the albums that came before it.
Yeah, you know? Not at all. Not at all.
And like I said before, I mean, I've stated previously, even like 2 or 3 months ago, I did a video on here where I said that Sin After Sin was my favorite Priest album.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
But I don't know.
Hey, opinions change, you know.
Yeah.
Opinions change.
And that could be my favorite Priest album again in an hour if I listen to it again, you know.
I actually kind of want to listen to that album now. Sin After Sin.
Yeah, I honestly like I have not listened to it as much as Screaming for Vengeance or Sad Wings or Stained Class or Painkiller.
I haven't either.
It's so great. But it's one that I still need to listen to more as well.
Same here.
But yeah, I don't think I had this as my number one when I wrote down my initial list, but every time I listen to it, it's just like, yeah, it has to be number one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's partly because this is the first Priest album I ever got. I think it is.
Yeah.
But
it's the second one I ever got.
I can't remember. It was either this or Sad Wings of Destiny. But I have a lot of kind of nostalgia for this album as well because it was kind of a weird point in my life where I was in this kind of large town, small city where I was going to school and I didn't know anyone there. And I kind of just like, I don't know, especially back then I had a lot of like social anxiety and stuff like that. And I didn't really spend much time trying to meet new people because I was also only there for a month and a half.
Oh, right? Shit.
So I would kind of go to school and then I would go back to my dorm room and just like listen to metal. But I ended up ordering some CDs on Amazon. This was one of them. And I didn't have a CD player. I didn't have like a computer with me or anything. So I would just play them in my car because I had a CD player in my car. I would just drive around and listen to these CDs that I was ordering. This was one of them. And man, I had heard Painkiller and Nightcrawler before, but I hadn't heard any other songs. And it just blew me away how fantastic this was. And this is what really got me fully into Priest.
Yeah.
Going, I need to check out some more of these guys' albums.
Me too.
Painkiller I heard back in high school and I always loved that song. Nightcrawler, it kind of I heard it when I was like probably 14 or 15 and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. It's kind of a creepy scary song.
It is creepy.
Hell Patrol, All Guns Blazing, Leather Rebel, Metal Meltdown, Nightcrawler, Between the Hammer and the Anvil, Touch of Evil, and then Battle Hymn into One Shot at Glory. I mean, this is just
there's no weak moment, you know.
No, there's not a weak like 5 seconds.
Although some people complain about Touch of Evil, the part with the keyboards. I think it's fine. I like it.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. That's the only complaint I think I've ever seen was that keyboard part on Touch of Evil. But right. I listen to a lot of music with keyboards, so for me, it's fine, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Or I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. This to me as well is just like, this is just one of the best metal albums. Of all time. I mean, this is heavy metal distilled to its purest form in a lot of ways. If someone if someone came up to me and said, "What does heavy metal sound like?" There you go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
I would
I mean,
too.
it's got everything you want in a metal album.
It's funny you
And
say that because somebody has actually said that exact thing. Are you a fan of Emperor at all?
yeah,
So Isan of Emperor, I read an interview with him one time where he said that exact thing. He said if anyone asks him where to start with heavy metal, he said Painkiller is always what
nice.
he'll say. He said that's
That's
yeah,
awesome.
the quintessential heavy metal album.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big Emperor and Ishan fan.
Yeah, me too.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this album. It's just
Yeah.
basically a perfect heavy metal album.
Yeah.
You hear that they were influenced by some of the other stuff that was going on. There's
Yeah. I was gonna say it's not like the most it's not like a groundbreaking album, but
no,
it's just
not really.
they just took some influences and made it way better, you know?
Yeah, exactly. There's a little bits of thrash on here. There's little bits of power metal for
Yeah.
sure, but I don't know. It's
This is a
just
good example of trying to like keep up with the times, but like doing it successfully, you know?
yeah, totally. Yep.
Yeah. It's and I heard this cool story recently, which I guess I'd never heard before, but like the reason why this album sounds the way it does, and like the reason why like Tipton and Downing, why their guitar playing is so different than it was before this, is because so they went on tour with Racer X. Have you ever heard Racer
Oh,
X?
okay.
And so Racer X were opening for them, and they're like, "Holy shit!" And they were like watching Paul Gilbert play,
Yeah,
you know, and that's why it sounds this way because they're like, "We need to step our game up." So that's
yeah,
why, because I always wondered like, why the hell, where did they learn to play like this? Because it wasn't their playing style before this at all, you know. It's basically, yeah, they saw Paul Gilbert and they're like, we need to be better, and and they got better, you know,
yeah.
and they stole Scott Travis from
Oh,
Racer X.
was he in Racer X? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, he might have still been even after this. I'm not sure, but he was. Yeah, that's where they got him from Racer X.
Cool.
I don't know if I don't know the story behind that other than I assumed it was, from going on tour with them and they're like, all right, we need this guy.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah,
it is
it's
crazy too, like just the level of musicianship and stuff on
yeah,
it. I mean, the guitar playing is insanely good.
yeah,
It's crazy to think that those guys started off in the mid to late 60s playing blues rock and evolved
yeah.
into
Not many
this.
musicians
Right?
do that, right? Not many
No,
musicians will change like that. They usually like look at Tony Iommi, like he never really changed his style. Not that he needed to,
no,
but
yeah,
most of those older players, they just kind of and I get it, but most of the older players just kind of kept their style and never really changed.
yeah,
And for me, I think it was for the better, for them to up their game like this because that's the kind of guitar playing I like. I'm more of a, like I like shredding and stuff like that. And I mean every kind of playing style has its place, but this is yeah, and not only they're playing, but like the tones and everything.
yeah.
I don't know anything about playing guitar, but like the guitar tones here is just so perfect. It almost reminds me of like Chuck Schuldiner of Death. Like he had
Totally.
like that just tone. I feel like
Yeah,
he might have taken that from Painkiller. Um, Not the tone that he had like the first two albums, but maybe starting with like Human.
yeah,
Uh, you know,
yeah. I can see that. Yeah,
yeah. So, yeah, I this is just an album I never ever get tired of. I could put this on right now, and I would never skip any song. Um, Painkiller, the title track, is my favorite song here, but still, uh, there's no song there for me. There's no weak link, so this is a total 10 out of 10
yeah,
album. You know,
for sure.
um, I guess what would be my second favorite after Painkiller? I don't even know. I feel like Painkiller's my favorite, and then almost everything else is like tied. Maybe Hell Patrol. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, this for me, yeah, this is. I don't think this is ever not going to be my number one. I don't think like a lot of the choices are subject to change, but I don't. I think this is like maybe the one that is not subject to change, other than Demolition being at the bottom.
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
Demolition's ever going to come up, but this is
Yeah.
never going to go down, in my opinion.
I would say probably the same. As much as I sometimes say a different one is my number one. Like
Yeah.
if I listen to this again, it's instantly my number one again. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I haven't even listened to it in a long time, but it doesn't even matter because it's just it's still stuck in my brain. So it's like I only have fond memories of thinking about it. Probably the albums I'm going to be listening to the most, and from here out, probably Stained Class and Sin After Sin.
oh yeah,
I'm
cool.
going to listen to these a lot more, I think, at this point. But I don't think, but yeah, I don't think they're ever going to take down Painkiller, and for my top spot.
Yeah, that's a cool thing about doing one of these videos too. Is like you realize that there's albums that you haven't listened to enough,
Yeah,
right? You have your
totally.
go-tos, especially with a band with 18 albums. I mean, that's a huge catalog, and you're not
Yeah,
gonna listen to them all in a row normally,
totally.
or anything like that. You have your kind of five or so that you usually go to.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna go back to Sin After Sin some more. I'm gonna this album has gone way up like for me in the last couple weeks, honestly, because I'd only heard it like probably twice before. For
yeah,
whatever reason, I had listened to Screaming like way more. I
yeah.
actually only bought this CD like about a week ago,
Oh
to
shit.
be honest. Yeah,
But
I
that
got
doesn't
it.
mean you haven't heard it a bunch already, though.
No, but I honestly had only heard it probably two or three times
Yeah,
before the last couple weeks, and just even listening to it again yesterday bumped it up my list as well. So I got to listen to that
yep,
some more.
yep,
Um, Rockarola, I'll probably listen to some more. Firepower for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I just
yeah. I'm
this
I'm kind of there too.
it would be easy for certain bands if you um, listen to them a lot in a short period of time, like I've done for this ranking, to refresh my memory on some and catch up on some I missed. Be easy to get burnt out, but I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, like I said earlier, I'm not tired of listening to Judas Priest at all right now.
yeah. When I'm like preparing to do a ranking, I always make sure not to burn myself out. So like I don't want to, because if I force myself to listen to something and I'm not really in the mood for it, I might not enjoy it as much, and I might rank it lower. So
Right.
I don't like oh, I need to listen to this album 5 times in a row. I would never do that
Oh,
because then I
yeah.
might, yeah, then I might just think that I like it less, but just because I burn myself out on it, and that's not the album's fault.
Yeah. Or just sometimes depends on the mood that you're in. If
Yeah,
you're not in a good mood and you listen to an album, you're just sometimes don't like it
yeah,
as
you
much.
might go, oh, I'm not too big on this, but then you
Yeah.
might listen to it when you're in a good mood and like, oh shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I try to let it come naturally when it comes to that. That way I can have a good, not a skewed perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. This was a blast, but it was difficult, but
Yeah, I knew it would be.
yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. If anyone wants to give us their lists, or if they want to make fun of me for liking Jugulator, I won't be mad. Go for it.
Yeah. I I will say, Shanoa, if you, I mean, go check out like anything from probably either of our top six or so is
Yeah.
a good place to start.
Yeah.
I would say.
It's never too late. I mean, there's still
Oh,
probably
exactly.
people just discovering Judas Priest for the first time.
I mean, yeah, I got into them really late too. Like I said, I mean,
I kind of did too. Yeah.
it's weird. I've loved Sabbath since I don't know, probably 15 years ago. But
Yeah. They've
both
always been
Maiden,
my favorite.
both Maiden and Priest, I didn't get into. I still, I don't know. I kind of inherited all these Iron Maiden shirts. I have like four Iron Maiden shirts that people gave me. Um,
What? Lucky. I never got,
yeah,
I never had
yeah,
people give me Iron Maiden shirts.
yeah. Well, there was this my my good friend's dad's ex girlfriend. Her brother was a roadie for Priest and Maiden in the 80s.
Oh, shit.
So he had, I don't know what happened to it, honestly,
So your
because
dad gave you all those?
Well, my buddy's dad's ex-girlfriend,
Oh,
but
gotcha. That's
um,
badass.
her brother, yeah, was a roadie, and so I went. She didn't know what she inherited all this stuff because he passed away 8 or so years ago, probably now. But
Oh shit.
he had all the. I did get some records as well. The first three records, and these kind of these are represses, but these like singles that they put out back in the early '80s, which are
Oh
pretty
shit. Those are
cool.
originals.
No, they're not originals. They're
Oh,
represses.
okay. I have some of those. But yeah, when they did that series back in like 2018 or 17 or something. Yeah, I bought a bunch of those too. I wish I got them all. I got as many as I could. I have like maybe close to 10 of them. I love those old Maiden singles though. They're so awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome. Um, but yeah, he had some of those, but he had like tons of shirts.
Damn.
Uh, I have a pair of Killers socks. I have a
Whoa.
pair of Killers like All Star shoes.
No
They're
shit.
not they're not like real Converse, but they're kind of rip offs. And
That's badass though.
I have a freaking Killers like Christmas sweater,
Damn.
which
That's
is pretty
crazy.
cool. But and
Damn.
he had all the like action figures and stuff too from all
Damn.
the '80s albums. Those are like worth hundreds of dollars. I
Oh, I'm
mean,
sure.
but so I went there to like kind of take catalog what she had because she didn't know what to do with it because she wasn't really a Maiden fan or anything. But so I got
Yeah.
all this. I got some shirts and stuff, but
That's awesome.
I'm still I don't know they're still not my favorite band, but I do love them. I will say the
Yeah.
first couple albums are my favorites. Probably was never a
Yeah.
huge Bruce Dickinson fan. He's a great singer, but I never
I'm the
fell
same.
in
Yeah,
love
I'm the
with
same. He's never
his.
been one of my favorites either. But
Anyway,
as awesome as he is. I much prefer like Jeff Tate or some other people, but I mean, not to take away from him. I wouldn't want him not to be in Maiden.
yeah,
So yeah, no, he fits Maiden perfectly. I
yeah,
do love Maiden.
I do too. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I gotta get going. I gotta go take Louis outside. I gotta go
Oh
pick my
yeah,
son up from his friend's house. But thanks for joining me on this. We'll have
yeah,
to
man. Thanks for having me.
we'll have to come up with something else another time to do. I'm
Yeah,
sure there's many others that I want to do. So
yeah,
all right, everyone,
awesome.
take care. See ya.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.
Yes.
See ya.
Ending stream.